Yo, 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 what is up, class? How is everyone doing? Welcome in, guys. Welcome, welcome. What is up? Welcome back, guys, to another installment of Creepypasta 101. Before we get started, though, as usual, let's go through roll call. Welcome in Yukaji, welcome in Leah, welcome in Piano Teddy Bear, welcome in Kennedy, welcome in Boba Boy, and welcome in Baxter. Welcome in, guys. Welcome, welcome. How are you all doing today? Anyone watching this VOD as well? Thank you, thank you. Thank you, VOD squad. Thank you, thank you. But yes, guys, we will be doing another Creepypasta 101 today. We'll be reading I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell. Yes. This one is pretty well known by a lot of the Creepypasta community. It's going to be a little bit different, though. We're going to see how far we get, because there are a lot of parts. A lot of them are pretty short, though. I want to at least try to finish the one with the stairs one. That's the goal for this stream. There are other monsters and encounters that the search and rescue officer has. We'll be going over those ones as well. We're not going to only read the ones with the stairs. We're just going to kind of go through up until the conclusion for the stairs one. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to be doing this stream. But we will be able to just kind of chat in Zatsu before we actually get into it. So how have you guys been? What have you guys been up to? Hope you guys have not been causing any disturbances. Hope you guys have been behaving yourself. I'm just kidding. But yes, guys, for me anyway, I've been playing a ton. I'm full and ready for scary stories before bedtime, narrated by our Kiki Sensei. Thank you, Baxter. Yes. I will be narrating for you guys as per usual. You know, working on that public speaking voice. I'm really trying to get better at reading out loud. I think there are many areas that I can improve, that I want to get better at. I want to be very smooth while reading. You guys know what I mean? But yes, for me, what I did the past couple days was the past couple days I was watching. So if you guys didn't see, on the community tab, there is a poll up as well, or not a poll, a post up for you guys to post some of your guys' favorite horror films for the ranking next week on Halloween. So yes, since I have not seen, obviously, a lot of horror movies, there are a lot that I have not seen. There are a lot that I have seen, but there are still many more that I have yet to see. Some classic ones too that I have yet to see as well, or that I may have seen previously, but I just don't remember them. So in an attempt to I guess refresh my memory on some of them, and as well as discover ones that you guys post there as well, is every single one that you guys have posted, I'm trying to watch. So let me see. The ones that I did watch recently was, I haven't seen Chucky in a long time. I really haven't seen Chucky in a long time. So I started rewatching the first one again, and it was actually a lot better than I thought. Which is kind of surprising. So remember, guys, there is a community post up for putting your favorite horror films on there, and they will be included in the tier list next week for Halloween. So make sure you guys do that. And I'm trying to watch all of them if I have not seen them or I don't remember them. But yeah, Chucky was one that I watched yesterday. I haven't seen it in a long time. Refresh my memory on it. It was actually quite a bit better than I thought. I did not really like Chucky 2 that much. I think it kind of starts to become a parody of itself in the second one. My opinion, guys, don't roast me. All right. But yes, I also watched A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is another one that another classic that I have not seen in quite a while. And it was a fun time. I think I enjoyed Chucky a little bit more than I did A Nightmare on Elm Street, if I'm being honest. A Nightmare on Elm Street is one that I don't think I actually have ever seen the first one for. Not that I can remember. I think I saw like one of the remakes or maybe some of the other ones a while back, but yes, it was definitely a time. It was an interesting time for watching A Nightmare on Elm Street for the first time, the original one. Some of the effects, I appreciate the practical effects and a lot of what they did, but if we're talking about like the story of it, it's pretty bare bones. I didn't know Johnny Depp was in it. like I saw him, but I'm used to seeing him as like, you know, like older Johnny Depp, like Captain Jack Sparrow Johnny Depp. So when I saw him, I was like, is that him? And then once the credits actually like I didn't like check my phone or anything during it, because I was like trying to pay attention to the movie. But when the credits came up and I saw Johnny Depp was there, I was like, oh my god, it was him. But I wasn't expecting that to be him. But he looks so young, he looks so different compared to how I normally remember him. So it was very interesting time. But yes, I got a few true scary stories. The place was haunted as hell by demons, ghosts, and teenagers. That sounds very interesting. That sounds very interesting. That sounds like a Fierce to Fathom game, because Fierce to Fathom, they like taking real experiences, like true stories and that sort of thing. But yes, I also did watch Scream 1, like the original Scream, because another one of you guys recommended, I think it was Yue, recommended Scream to be featured on the tier list. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, for the tier list, horror slasher films slasher films will be graded very harshly on my tier list, guys. They are going to be graded very harshly, because I'm just going to tell you guys right now, slasher films are one of my my least favorite genre for horror. So yes, when we do the tier list next week, just be warned that if it's a slasher film, even if it's a beloved one, it's probably going to be knocked down like a tier or two, just based off of that alone. Because yes, Scream was one where it's like, it's one of those movies where I thought that the first opening scene was very interesting. But I like called the twist in it, and I feel like it's a difficult movie, for me to try, because Scream has been one that I've always tried watching, so many times, like throughout my entire life. I've tried rewatching it so many times, and it's just never resonated with me for some reason. I don't know if it's because it's like the dialogue to me sometimes comes across as kind of cringy when they're talking about like horror movies and stuff, and that sort of thing. So yeah, for some reason, like Scream has never really resonated with me. So I did watch it. I did watch it all the way through. I did like call who the twist was, though, like fairly early on. Slasher films are so infuriating. They always make the worst decisions, like when the killer is in a room they would directly walk into. I don't necessarily think Scream is that way. I don't know. It's just something about the tone of the movie. I feel like it's not really scary, I guess, to me. The opening scene was wonderfully well done. I thought that the opening scene was very interesting. Like the first, I think it's like 10-15 minutes, like the first kill of the film, was very well done, very well executed. I thought that it was suspenseful. I thought that it was you didn't have a ghost face killer mask? No, I do not. I did not, unfortunately. But yes, when watching Scream, I thought that the first 20 minutes was very interesting, but as it went on, it kind of lost me a bit. I kind of started tuning out, especially because the boyfriend, it's the boyfriend and another guy in the friend group that is the killers. And I didn't remember that they were the killers, but I did kind of call it because I recognized his voice, the boyfriend's voice anyway, of the main girl. I forgot her name. But yes, I did recognize his voice. I was like, it's the boyfriend. He's right there. I don't know if that's the point of it. Maybe I'm just not processing it right. Maybe I'm just like not getting it. But yeah, I also tried watching the remake of Scream, or not remake, the semi reboot, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I did watch the newer one as well, that a lot of people really liked as well, but maybe because I didn't really love the original Scream that much, the new one just didn't really resonate with me. But oh my god, do you also love Pom Pom Pudding? I do love Pom Pom Pudding. I do. But I will say Pom Pom Pudding is not my favorite Sanrio character. It is still Pochako, tied kind of Pochako Kuromi between those two, but yes, I do still love Pom Pom Pudding. I love pretty much all of like the main cast for Sanrio characters. Scream has too many extra movies. It only needed one. Yeah, I agree. Especially because another reason why I think Scream kind of doesn't resonate with me as well is one, I didn't see it when it originally came out. Unfortunately, I did not see it when it originally came out. But I feel like I've seen so many parodies of it. So when watching it now, having also seen those parodies, it's essentially become a parody of itself to me. Because there's so many, there's like the famous "What's up" thing in Scary Movie, and yeah. So I'm just gonna tell you guys, just forewarning for next week's Halloween tier list. Slasher films are gonna get a really harsh grade from me. So not that I dislike, not that I hate them or anything. It's just they're not for me. It's not my type of horror, but yes, just a warning, guys. I don't watch horror, but I remember watching Coraline, and that was really scary to me as to kid me. Yes, Coraline, I did not watch when I was a kid. I think I watched it much later. Yeah, I did. Yes, I did grow up with A Nightmare Before Christmas, though. I do love A Nightmare Before Christmas, and I do love Corpse Bride, but Coraline was one that I did not watch until I was a bit older. Pochako Supremacy, yes, Pochako Supremacy. Pochako is probably my favorite still. But yes, pretty much all of the main cast of Sanrio characters I like a lot. I like quite a bit. Except Batsmaru, I don't fucking care. I'm sorry if you guys like Batsmaru, if any of you guys are Batsmaru stans, but I'm gonna say he's fucking awful. I don't like him. One of the most uninteresting Sanrio characters to me. I don't know. Every time I see him in a collab in some of the Sanrio collabs, I'm like, oh my fucking god, why? I don't know. It's just he's not for me. He's not for me. I don't really like it. I don't really like his design. I don't really think it's cute. But yeah, whenever he gets picked for collabs and stuff, and it's a character that I really like, I'm like, fuck, god damn it. But Batsmaru slander, yes, Batsmaru slander. Unfortunately, guys, I'm sorry. I gotta say it. But also Piano Teddy Bear, thank you so much for the clip. I did see the clip that you posted. Thank you so much. Remember, guys, you guys have free creative freedom to do anything you want with clips. I do not mind. I do not mind if you guys make clips. There's no restrictions or rules. I do know that Piano Teddy Bear asked Leah if there are any rules or anything against posting clips, and no, I don't have anything like that. So you guys are free to make clips as you guys want, as creatively as you guys want. I don't know what we're talking about. We're talking about Batsmaru from Sanrio. Of course, Yuki is a Pochako stan. What's wrong? Hey, yo, what's wrong with Pochako, huh? What's wrong with Pochako? Don't be slandering Pochako. Come on now. He's one of the cutest ones in Sanrio. Come on, man. Like, really? We're gonna stand for Pochako slander in this chat. But the little black bird that dates Kuromi. Do they date? I didn't even know that. I did not even know that. Defamation of Batsmaru. Sorry, I'm so sorry, but Batsmaru is just not, he's not one of my, he's just not for me. He's just not for me. Like, he has a crowd out there, but I am not that crowd. But yeah, I remember he was picked for a Red Eyes Black Dragon, I think. And I'm like, fuck, man, god damn it. But yes, guys, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. I still have a few other movies that I'm going to watch before the tier list next week that I need to watch. I'm gonna try and watch a couple of the Friday the 13th movies. I think I watched the first couple years ago, like long time ago. I don't even remember them now, so I'm trying to watch at least the staples for you guys for the tier list, just so that you guys be like, oh, Yuki's doing a horror movie tier list, but he hasn't seen Friday the 13th, at least the first 5 parts, you know. So I'm at least trying to do that for you guys, so that I see all the staples. I'm also going to be rewatching Halloween. I think I watched that one as well a long time ago, so I'm going to try that one as well. I will also be watching at least the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Terrifier, and I think that's it. I think that's pretty much the staples that I'll watch for that. If you guys have any other staples, feel free to leave them on the community post, and I will definitely try to watch them. You like horror? Name every horror movie. Naming every horror movie would be very difficult. Especially every one that I've seen. I'm gonna have to go through and like try and remember every single one that I've seen to add to the tier list for you guys. But I did watch another one as well the past couple days. It's called Daddy's Head, which I really recommend you guys check out. It's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. It was pretty fun, actually. I liked it quite a bit. It was very disturbing. It's a British film, I want to believe. Very disturbing creature design. Very, very interesting. But yes, yeah, I would highly recommend you guys check it out. Friday the 13th is when you stabby. That's all I know. Yes. But yes, Yue, I did see your comment on the community post. I did check out Scream and Insidious as well, but unfortunately, Scream, I've tried rewatching it so many times, and it is just not for me. We were just talking about that a little bit ago. So, but yeah, slasher films will get a much harsher grade from me compared to other films. So, just so you know. But what is the name? Daddy's Head. I think that's the name of it. It is a British horror film. It just came out recently. Very, very interesting though. Scary Godmother is by far the scariest of them all. You have to be a tough motherfucker to watch that. I think I've seen that one. Let me see. I think, yeah, it is. Yeah, the CG is the 3D, and it is very terrifying indeed. Very, what is it? Early 2000s. Children of the Corn, a good old-timey horror you should see. Let me see. Children of the Corn. Remember, guys, there is a post up on the community tab. Feel free to post anything there. I will try to watch them so that I can add them to the tier list. All right. Children of the Corn is added, though. Just love it for the cultural impact it had. It's my comfort movie franchise. Yes. I do know that the people that love Scream are very devoted to it. I've tried so many times over the years to get into it, man. It's just very difficult for me. Because I feel like I think of it as like a parody of itself sometimes. Especially since there are so many parodies of it. But yes, ones that I will be checking out probably later today are going to be Halloween, Terrifier, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I'm interested to see how Halloween's going to hold up for me. I know a lot of people are very devoted to that franchise as well. I don't know how well I'm going to be to it. I think I've tried watching it many years ago. I don't remember at this point how it goes exactly. I am a John Carpenter fan, though. I love The Thing from John Carpenter. I think a lot of his movies are very well done. Like I overall, I like a lot of his, I do love a lot of his films. So I'm interested to check out Halloween. Like I said, though, don't know how it's gonna work out, though. We'll see. We'll see. I'm going in with an open mind, though, but I think that since it's a slasher film, it's gonna get a little bit of a harsher grade for me when we do the tier list. And also when we do the tier list, I will be going over a bunch of the movies, I will be briefly going over like my thoughts on them. Very briefly, though, because we are going to have a lot of movies to rank, and obviously I can't give like a detailed explanation for every single movie that I've seen and every single movie that you guys have recommended either. So I will just try and like briefly, I'll try and like time myself about like maybe 3 to 5 minutes per movie that we rank, and try and pace it like that, just so that I don't spend too much time talking about one movie versus another movie that I might not get as much time to talk about. So yeah, I think that's how we're going to structure the tier list next week. So yes. But guys, yeah, we will be getting into the creepypasta in just a little bit. We are just kind of hanging out and just chatting right now, just hanging out. I'm excited, though, to get into the creepypasta with you guys. It's going to be very interesting. Boba Boy did put Beetlejuice, which is my favorite. I did watch Beetlejuice actually very recently. I watched the sequel as well, that unfortunately I was not a very big fan of. I do like the original Beetlejuice, though. I think it is very well done. I think it it does some of the best for Tim Burton. I think it's very, very good. The sequel though, unfortunately, I just didn't like it. I'm gonna be honest, guys. I'm gonna be 100% with you guys. 100% honesty. Yeah, the sequel was not it for me. We talked a little bit about it in the Menchie stream. It almost feels like what people perceive Beetlejuice as instead of just like the actual thing itself. So yeah, unfortunately, the new Beetlejuice, not a huge fan of. The original one I do like though. The sequel is not bad. It's actually kind of good, just not as good as the first. For me, it's just, I think that it was not as unhinged. I feel like the original Beetlejuice was very, like when I watched, so here's the thing. I watched the original one and then I watched the sequel back to back. Yuki Sensei and his beef with Beetlejuice sequel. Yes. So, because I did watch both of them back to back, and watching the first one, I don't know, just something about it. It's so magical, I guess. It's very we jump in the Beetlejuice sequel now. Yes, unfortunately, man. I wanted to like it. I know a lot of people liked it, but I will say Beetlejuice is not a movie that I am as emotionally attached to compared to some of Tim Burton's other works. So I'm not as emotionally attached to that one. So when I went into the sequel, it was right after watching the original one, and I just could not stand it for some reason. My first problem is that Beetlejuice himself was barely in the movie at all. He almost felt like a side plot point in it. He was ironic enough because his name is in it twice. Also Jenna Ortega just was kind of playing Wednesday. Was just kind of playing Wednesday from the Wednesday show. That was another kind of, not like a nitpick, I guess a nitpick, yeah, kind of a nitpick that I had that kind of bugged me. Was just kind of like, she's playing the exact same character that she was in this one. What else? It felt like what people think Beetlejuice is, if you guys get what I mean. Does that make any sense? Because Beetlejuice has had like such a cultural impact on pop culture and stuff, so it almost feels like Beetlejuice was, the new sequel was what people, the main things that people think of when they think of Beetlejuice. But when I rewatched the original one, I was like, holy shit, dude, he's like unhinged as fuck. He's like crazy. But in this one, he's a lot more toned down. He's not as crazy. He's honestly barely even in the film. But yeah, I also did not really like the teen love angle with Jenna Ortega's character and the other boy. I don't remember his name. Sorry guys, I 100% do not remember his name. But yeah, I don't really, the teen love aspect of it was kind of cringy to me, very Disney Channel, Disney Channel vibes, but that, yeah, it is what it is. I didn't appreciate how they water the hell out of Lydia Dietz. Yeah, that was another thing too. Hear me out, guys. I think that Winona Ryder in the new Beetlejuice movie was just playing what she does in Stranger Things. She's Winona Ryder playing, it's Winona Ryder playing Joyce Byers playing Lydia Dietz from the original Beetlejuice. Yeah, so I wasn't really a fan of that either. It didn't feel like she was playing the same character that she was playing previously. Disney Channel teen love, that's kind of what it felt like Disney Channel romance to me. Like I wasn't really into it. But yeah, the original one I like. I will say that though. I do really like the original Beetlejuice. But yes, guys. I'm looking at my notes. Oh man, sorry guys. I had to roast the fuck out of that movie. I like tried watching it. I like had to take a break like halfway through watching Beetlejuice. And because I was looking forward to watching it because everyone was saying like they really liked it, but basically nostalgia farm. Hate to see it in sequels. Yes, it was hella nostalgia farming, and when it comes to nostalgia farming and a lot of properties, I'm not a fan of it. I wish they did not have so many plot lines and just had one. Yeah, that was another thing. They had a lot of plot lines that were kind of jumbled all over the place. Especially when compared to the original one. I feel like the original one wasn't, or all the plot lines that they were juggling all kind of came together very well. Yeah, I haven't seen Wednesday yet either. I only watched like the first episode of Wednesday. That's another show that that we also talked about this in the Menchie stream, in the membership stream as well. When we were watching Corpse Bride, I do plan to try and finish Wednesday. I don't know if I will, but it is on my list of things to try and finish. But as of right now, I probably will not. I also mentioned it in Menchie stream as well. I'm not actually familiar with the Addams Family at all. So I kind of want to go back and rewatch some of the how many movies can I recommend for which one, for which series. There for the list, there is no limit for how many you can recommend. Just know that if I have not seen it and I don't get around to watching it, I may not be including it on the tier list, or if I do include it, it'll be going in the have not seen / do not remember tier list. I will say the scene with the ex-wife introduction was so cool, and the wedding song was fun. Besides that, it was all meh. Yes, I agree 100%. I just watched Wednesday and it was amazing. They also have a second season coming out. Yes, I do know the second season is coming out. I will probably finish it at some point, but I am not familiar with the Addams Family, so I kind of want to rewatch, or I kind of want to not rewatch, but watch some of the Addams Family stuff, and then watch Wednesday, if you guys get what I mean. Because I know that a lot of the people that get into Wednesday, a lot of people are already fans of the Addams Family, but I have no knowledge whatsoever on Addams Family, so I feel like I should watch some of the supplementary material before getting into Wednesday. But yes, the Addams Family is so goated that I can't watch anything adjacent to it. I will always compare. I see. A lot of people are saying that Wednesday in the TV show is completely different from how she was portrayed in the Addams Family. I don't know if any of you guys can attest to that, but I do know that is what a lot of people have said. I'm at 11 and counting. Should I post now? Go for it. You can put as many as you want. There is no limit to how many movies you guys can put. Yeah, but just realize, if I have not seen it, or I don't get around to watching them, then it will be going in the have not seen, or do not. I'm gonna have another tier on the tier list where it is have not seen / do not remember the movies, because there are going to be quite a few of those, because obviously I have not seen every single horror film. I've seen a lot, but I have not seen every single one. But we are going to have a nice healthy mixture of newer horror films, newer staple films, as well as classics. So that's why I am brushing up on my classic horror films until next week. I like the progression of Wednesday. It's a must-watch for me. Also, I don't think you need to watch the Addams Family just to know about the characters. I kind of feel that, but I feel like I might get a little bit more enjoyment out of it if I do watch the original Addams Family. So that's why I probably will be watching that. Also, just so that I can kind of see how the differences are between the two shows. Also, adding the years they were released. Yes, thank you, Baxter. Thank you. Yes, please add the years so that I can know exactly which movie you are talking about, because sometimes there are recommendations where you guys put a recommendation and I look for a movie and it's just like a bunch of different, like a lot of movies share the same title, so that does help knowing what year it was released. So thank you. But all right, guys. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. We will be getting into the creepypasta in just a second. I'm just going over my notes to see if there's anything else that I wanted to cover before we get into it. Like I said, though, for the creepypasta, we're just gonna see how far we're gonna see how far I get in this one. There are many parts, so yeah. Ultimate goal is to try and get to the ending of the stairs before the end of the stream. That is the goal. That is the hope. And we will be taking notes as we go during the stream as well. So But yes, 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 guys. All right, and cross off all the things that creepy pasta time. Yes, it is creepy pasta time. I'm just crossing off all of my notes. But yeah, guys, if you guys haven't seen Daddy's Head, check it out. Check it out. It is interesting. Very, very interesting film for sure. Also, guys, like the thumbnail, yes. Also, guys, though, we will be playing. What are we playing? Amanda the Adventure 2. So I know I said we were gonna play Murder House, but unfortunately, or not unfortunately, what am I talking about? I was gonna play Murder House, but yeah, that will be getting pushed back to next week. We'll play it next week. The Man of the Adventure 2 is coming out, so I do want to play that instead, and definitely check that out. So yes, Murder House will be pushed back to next week, and we'll be playing Man of the Adventure on Saturday. And then we will also be reading or watching a Corpse Husband video. I will be reading. But welcome in, everyone. Welcome into all the new chatters. Welcome, guys. Welcome. But yes. So we will also on Tuesday. Sorry, guys, lost my train of thought. We will be checking out what is it? Observation Duty 7. That also came out recently. I'm so excited to be checking out Observation Duty 7 with you guys on Tuesday. So that'll probably be a longer stream. I definitely want to just kind of hang out with you guys, and usually those types of Anomaly Hunter games turn into just kind of praise the Lord, no problem. They usually just kind of turn into usually Anomaly Hunter games kind of turn into Zatsus anyway. So yeah, we'll pretty much just be hanging out. I do want to see all the different anomalies and that sort of stuff. I came when I saw Creepypasta. Yes, let's go. Welcome in, Aaron. Welcome. This is a semi-new series that we have started on the channel where I do read off creepypastas on stream with you guys. It's every Thursday thing now. We used to do analog horror on Thursday, but obviously there aren't that many analog horrors after you watch kind of the main ones. So what we are doing now is Creepypasta 101, where I will be reading off creepypastas with you guys on stream. I will also be having it up so you guys can follow. And what we do is we take notes, we kind of analyze, we dissect, we theorize, and that sort of thing during the stream. So yes. Welcome in, everyone. Welcome. So yes. Yuki is a yapper, so it takes a little bit to get to the creepypasta, but it's all chill. Yes. I'm a big yapper. I love yapping. I love just Zatsuing with you guys as well. I kind of want to do another Zatsu stream where it's just like purely Zatsu, so that people know that like if you want to come in and just hang out and chat, we can do that. But I think that'll maybe be not next week, but maybe the week after. We'll see. I do have a pretty stonk schedule for plans that I have with you guys, so we'll have to wait and see. But all right, guys. I think without further ado, though, let's get into the creepypasta. We've been yapping for about almost 40-ish minutes now. I guess if you include like the 5 minutes before stream started, it's actually about 30. But yeah. Please leave suggestions on the community post, guys, for next week's horror movie tier list. Yuki is in his yapping era. My yapping era has been since ever. What do you mean? What do you mean I'm in my yapping era? I've always been in my yapping era. All right. All right. Creepypasta 101, guys. Welcome in. Welcome. All right, I'm going to get it pulled up for you guys as well so that you guys can see. I'm going to try to follow, for it to follow along as best as I can. Sometimes it's a little awkward, though, because I am reading it at the same time. So apologize for any of the scuff. But yes, I will try to keep an eye on the stream feed to see where it is. Yeah. So quick disclaimer, I do know a little bit about this creepypasta. I do know like kind of a majority of what happens in it. I do try to read through all of these classes started. Yes, class is in session. Class is in session, guys. So yeah, when it comes to a lot of these creepypastas, I do try to read them beforehand, just also so that it's a little bit more, what's the word? It flows a little bit better when I actually read them on stream with you guys. But yes. And this one's a little bit different than the showers. I feel like the showers was more of like a campfire story creepypasta compared to what this one is. Obviously, this one is almost like an account of someone, of a search and rescue officer, obviously. So this one's going to be quite a bit different compared to some of the other ones we've checked out already. So as well as the one in the Menchie stream as well. I think the one in the Menchie streams were kind of also kind of more campfire or told from more of a narrative perspective, like a more traditional narrative perspective. This one is a lot different. So yes, I wanted to talk about before we actually get into the creep. Sorry guys, I know I'm delaying a lot. I'm nonstop yapping. I'm sorry. I'm gonna apologize again for it. When I was reading through this reminded me a lot of Woodlands National Park, which is the analog horror series we covered a couple weeks ago. And when I was reading through this, I was like, oh my god, this seems almost exactly like I guess Woodlands is not taking this exactly from it, but I could see a lot of similarities between the Woodlands National Park analog horror and this creepypasta, which I thought was very, very interesting, because this just a brief overview of what happens in this creepypasta. The search and rescue officer, they're essentially forced to cover up certain things that happen in the park, in the national park and that sort of thing, and it's very interesting. It's very similar, very, very similar to the Woodlands National Park analog horror. Yeah, the showers definitely feels like someone telling an old ghost story. Yes. Showers was very fun though. Showers was very interesting. I like the setting of the showers. I don't know, just something about it just kind of as similar to how the narrator puts it. It's like just something about the story just makes it very intriguing. So that was the first one that we did. And this is obviously going to be the next one. So all right guys, I think without further ado, I'm going to take a sip of my drink, or my several drinks here, and then we will start. And I will kill the BGM as well. Like I always say before we get into it, guys, feel free to talk and discuss in the chat. Feel free to talk and discuss. Just please no spoilers. If you guys know what's gonna happen, please don't spoil anything. For those of who are in the chat that have not that don't know what will happen. So yes, guys, please no spoilers. But feel free to discuss. Feel free to talk. Spoils everything. I mean, if you spoil everything, you're gonna get bonked. So please don't. All right. Killing the BGM. I'm also gonna take a sip of water as well, because I have two different drinks. I have an energy drink, and then I also have a thing of water. So I'm gonna drink some water just to kind of clear my throat a little bit before we get started. Old restroom in the middle of nowhere is definitely an interesting yet spooky setting. It wasn't I don't think it was a restroom though. It was like a creepy barn with like showers or something like that for the showers. All right. All right, guys, let's get started. I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell. I wasn't sure where else to post these stories, so I figured I'd share them here. I've seen I've been a search and rescue officer for for a few years now, and along the way, I've seen some things that I think you guys will be interested in. I'm gonna try and keep up with what is appearing on screen for you guys so that you guys can still see. All right. I have a pretty good track record for finding missing people. Most of the time, they wander off the path or slip down a cliff, and they can't find their way back. The majority of them have heard the old "stay where you are" thing, and they don't wander far. But I've had 2 cases where that didn't happen. Both bother me a lot, and I use them as motivation to search even harder on the missing persons cases I get called on. Let me actually see where I need to stop for this so that I can gauge. Okay, I need to stop at here. All right. The first was a little boy who was out berry picking with his parents. He and his sister were together, and both of them went missing around the same time. Their parents lost sight of them for a few seconds, and in that time, both the kids apparently wandered off. When their parents couldn't find them, they called us. When we came out to the to search the area, we found the daughter pretty quickly. And when we asked where her brother was, she told us that he had been taken away by the bear man. Okay, bear man. All right. Zoom in on the story. Do you guys need me to zoom in a little bit more? If you guys need me to zoom in, I can. If it's a little too small for you guys. I don't want to make it too big for you guys because, oh, zoomed in on my end. Okay. All right, guys. Yes, please. Okay. All right, guys. I got you. Don't worry. Don't worry. Sounds very scary. Yeah, if you guys need anything, just let me know. All right. Is that better? Is that a little bit better for you guys? My feed is super small, so you guys are gonna have to let me know if it is. Let me find my position. Is that good for you guys? I'll give you guys a second to, there is a little bit of a delay on the stream, so I'll give you guys a little bit of time to let me know. If it is a little too small for you guys, remember you guys can also zoom in on YouTube depending. If you're on mobile, I think. If you're on mobile, I think you can zoom in a little bit more. All right, I'm going to continue though. I'm going to continue. It's good for me. All right. Okay, so we stopped at Bear Man. She said she gave her berries, or she said he gave her berries and told her to stay quiet, that he wanted to play with her brother for quite a while. The last she saw of her brother, he was riding on the shoulders of the bear man. This sounds super creepy and seemed calm. Of course, our first thought was abduction. but we never found a trace of another human being in that area. The little girl was also insistent that he wasn't a normal man, but that he was tall and covered in hair, like a bear, and that he had a weird face. We searched that area for weeks. It was one of the longest calls I've ever been on, but we never found a single trace of that kid. The other was a young woman who was out hiking with her mom and grandpa. According to the mother, her daughter had climbed up a tree to get a better view of the forest, and she never came back down. They waited at the base of the tree for hours, calling her name before they called for help. Again, we searched everywhere, and we never found a trace of her. I have no idea where she could possibly have gone, because neither her mother, or grandpa saw her come down. All right, there we go. Sasquatch, right? Sounds like a Bigfoot. Bigfoot is in this national park. A few times I've been out on my own searching with a canine, and they've tried to lead me straight up cliffs. Not hills, not even rock faces, straight sheer cliffs with no possible handholds. It's always baffling, and in those cases, we usually find the person on the other side of the cliff or miles away from where the canine has led us. I'm sure there's an explanation, but it's sort of strange. Good dogs, good boys, good boys. All right. I think this is a little bit easier for me to actually like highlight it for you guys to see, and also so that I know when to stop and a break in between. So I think that's how I'm going to do it. One particularly sad case involved the recovery of a body. A 9-year-old girl fell down an embankment and got impaled on a dead tree at the base. Ooh. It was a complete freak accident, but I'll never forget the sound her mother made when we told her what happened. She saw the body bag being loaded into the ambulance, and she let out the most haunting, heartbroken wail I've ever heard. It was like her whole life was crashing down around her, and a part of her had died with her daughter. I heard from another search and rescue officer that she killed herself a few weeks after it happened. She couldn't live with the loss of her daughter. Holy fuck, bro. Eesh. Something tells me this is not your standard search and rescue position, for sure. You got bear guys, and you got people going up trees and never coming back down. That's so strange. All right. Oh no, yeah, that sounds really brutal. That sounds really disturbing. Alright, I was teamed up with another search and rescue officer. We'd received reports of bears in the area. We were looking for a guy who hadn't come home from a climbing trip when he was supposed to, and we ended up having to do some serious climbing to get where we figured he'd be. We found him trapped in a small crevasse with a broken leg. It was not pleasant. He'd been there for almost 2 days, and his leg was very obviously infected. We were able to get him into a chopper, and I heard from one of the EMTs that the guy was absolutely inconsolable. He kept talking about how he'd been doing fine and how he'd gotten to the top. A man had been there. He said, hold on guys, I'm gonna highlight this part and then go down. He said the guy had no climbing equipment and he was wearing a parka and ski pants. He walked up to the guy, and when the guy turned around, he said he had no face. It was just blank. He freaked out and then ended up trying to get off the mountain too fast, which is why he had fallen. He said he could hear the guy all night climbing down the mountain and letting out these horrible muffled screams. The story bothered the hell out of me. I'm glad I wasn't there to hear it. Interesting. So when he says like no face, does he mean like I'm like trying to picture it because a lot of these creepypastas, I feel like you have to kind of picture what is happening in a lot of these. And I'm trying to think of like when he says no face. Is it like Slender Man type shit where he has like actually no face? Or it's just like blank features? Or does he mean like there's a hole where his face should be? I'm not really sure what exactly this one would be. All right. Okay, one of the scariest things I've ever had happen to me involved the search for a young woman who had gotten separated from her hiking group. We were out until late at night because the dogs had picked up her scent. When we found her, she was curled up under a large rotted log. She was missing her shoes and pack, and she was clearly in shock. She didn't have any injuries, and we were able to get her to walk with us back to base ops. Along the way, she kept looking behind us and asking us why that big man with black eyes was following us. We couldn't see anyone, so we just wrote it off as some weird symptom of shock. But the closer we got to the base, the more agitated this woman became. Or this woman got. Alright. That. She kept asking me to tell him to stop making faces at her. At one point, she stopped and turned around and started yelling into the forest, saying that she wanted him to leave her alone. She wasn't going to go with him. She said she wouldn't give us to him. Strange. That's such a strange phrasing. Like, she wouldn't give us to, like, the search and rescue officers to him? We finally got her to keep moving, but we started hearing these weird noises coming from all around us. It was almost like coughing, but more rhythmic and deeper. It was almost insect-like. I don't really know how else to describe it. When we were within sight of base ops, the woman turns to me, and her eyes... Okay, there we go. Just making sure. Eyes are about as wide as I can imagine a human could open them. She touches my shoulder and says, "He says to tell you to speed up. He doesn't like looking at the scar on your neck." I have a very small scar on the base of my neck, but it's mostly hidden under my collar, and I have no idea how this woman saw it. Right after she says it, I hear that weird coughing in my right ear, and I just jumped out of my skin. I hustled her to ops, trying not to show how freaked out I was, but I have to say, I was really happy when we left the area that night. That is so creepy. Oh my god. There's like someone behind you, or like, oh, stuff like that freaks me out, where it's like there's no fucking way that, or it's like really unlikely that someone would be able to know like little details about someone like that, but then they like randomly bring it up to someone you've never known before. And yeah, that's very freaky. That's very interesting. I wonder what kind of thing this is supposed to be, though. Is it just a ghost, or is it supposed to be like more of like an entity sort of thing? All right. I like that these are in little segments, though. It makes it a lot easier to read. Why is bro looking at his neck? I don't know. Maybe the ghost thing, whatever, has a fetish, has a neck fetish. He doesn't like it when necks have scars on them. This is the last one I'll tell, and it's probably the weirdest story I have. Now, I don't know if this is true in every search and rescue unit, but in mine, it's sort of an unspoken, regular thing we run into. You can try asking about it with other search and rescue officers, but even if they know what you're talking about, they probably won't say anything about it. We've been told not to talk about it by our superiors, and at this point, we've gotten so used to it that it doesn't even seem weird anymore. On just about every case where we're really far into the wilderness, I'm talking about 30 or 40 miles, at some point we'll find a staircase in the middle of the woods. It's almost like if you took the stairs in your house, cut them out, and put them in the forest. I asked about it the first time I saw some, and the other officer just told me not to worry about it. That it was normal. Everyone I had asked said the same thing. I wanted to go check them out, but was told very emphatically that I should never go near any of them. I just sort of ignore them now when I run into them because it happens so frequently. And there it is. There are the stairs. Our first account of the stairs. First account of the stairs. So before we get into part 2, guys, I kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about this, because when we were doing the watch along in the membership stream for the ritual, I thought it was so, because I feel that whenever you're looking at wilderness and stuff and you see just like something so out of place, you know, something so strange, it also kind of reminds me of like Backrooms vibes too, where it's just like things that shouldn't be there are there. When we were doing the Menchie stream though, when we're watching the ritual, one of the absolute coolest visuals for that film is how they take like a convenience store, like a liquor store, and it's just dead set in the middle of the forest. And it's such like an interesting visual how everything is so well lit inside of the convenience store, but then you see the flooring and it's all just like it's all just forest, kind of overgrown, like foliage and stuff, and it's super interesting. That's one of the coolest things I love about that film. And like hearing about stuff like this, it does. And when I was researching for this creepypasta to read with you guys, it definitely reminded me of that a lot. So very interesting. But to cap off this part, it says, I have a lot more stories, and I suppose if anyone's interested, I'll tell some of them tomorrow. If anyone has any theories about the stairs, or if you've seen them too, let me know. So that concludes part 1. So we will be getting into part 2 and continuing on. Okay. Here we go. Part 2. I'll actually read the top part first. So I logged back on tonight and was blown away by the staggering amount of interest this seems to have generated. First off, I'll address a few things that you guys have brought up. Okay, right there. Okay, so I can read this whole paragraph. There's been an overwhelming amount of people mentioning the similarity between some of my stories and those of David Paulides. I assure you, I am not trying to rip him off in any way. I've nothing but respect for the guy. He's actually what inspired me to write this. Oh wait, this has nothing to do with the new stories. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna skip this then, because this is just them addressing. This isn't actually the story itself, so I'm gonna move on. All right, on to the new stories. These ones are much longer, so I'm gonna have to take a couple more breaks in between. What did I miss? Welcome in Infinity Zero. We just got our first introduction to the stairs. Okay. As far as missing persons go, I'd say about half of the calls I get are related to that. The other calls are rescue calls, people who have fallen down cliffs and hurt themselves, get injured by fire. You wouldn't believe how often this happens, mostly drunk kids, get bitten or stung by animals or insects. We're a tight team, and we have veterans who are excellent at finding signs of lost people. That's what makes these cases where we never find any trace of them so frustrating. One in particular was upsetting for all of us, because we did find a trace of them, but it just led to more questions than answers. An old man had been hiking alone on a well-established trail, but his wife called to say that he hadn't... All right, let me scroll down a little bit so that you guys can see. I kind of like it when it was the shorter paragraphs because it means I could read more of it, like in one sitting without having to take breaks. Just author's note? Yeah. But his wife had called to say that he hadn't come home when he should have. Apparently, he had a history of seizures, and she was worried that he hadn't taken his medication and had suffered one out on the trail. Before you ask, I have no idea why he thought it was okay to go out alone, or why she didn't go with him. I don't ask about that kind of thing because past a certain point, it really doesn't matter. Someone is missing and it's my job to find them. We went out in a standard search formation, and it wasn't long before one of our vets found signs that the guy had gone off trail. We grouped up and followed him, spreading out in a fan to make sure we were covering as much ground as possible. Suddenly, a call comes over the radio telling us to head back to the vet's location. And we come right away because this usually means the missing person is injured. Okay, there we go. There we go. I think I can stop there. Okay, because this usually means the missing person is injured and we need a full team to help them out safely. We meet back up and the vet is just standing at the base of a tree with his hands on the side of his head. I ask my buddy what's going on and he points up the branches of the tree. I almost couldn't believe what I was seeing. But there was a walking stick dangling from a branch at least 30 feet off the ground. The little strap thing on the handle had been looped around a branch and was just hanging there. There's no way the guy could have possibly tossed it up that far, and we don't see any other signs that he is still in the area. That is so creepy. Also, another callback to the, or not callback, but another ritual thing was when the in that film when the whenever the demon god thing whatever would kill the people, they would like hang them up in like really creepy ways. Kind of reminds me of that as well. We call up into the tree. I think it's we. Oh, okay. Hold on. I was like reading that. I was like, is that supposed to say we call up or we crawl up? We call up into the tree, but it's obvious no one's in it. We are all just sort of left scratching our heads. We keep searching for the guy, but we never find him. We bring our canines out, but they lose his scent long before this tree. Eventually, the search is called off because there are other calls we have to attend to. And past a certain point, there's not much we can do. The guy's wife called us every day for months, asking if we'd found her husband. And it was heartbreaking to hear her get more and more hopeless each time. I'm not sure why this call in particular was so upsetting, but I think it was just the sheer improbability of it. That and the questions that were raised. How the hell did this guy's cane end up there? Did someone kill him and toss it up there as some weird trophy? We did our best to find him, but it was almost like a taunt. We still talk about that one from time to time. I feel like there are so many things that are that happen in this. In these for the search and rescue officer. I feel like honestly that one seems pretty tame compared to the literal fucking creepy ass stairs that have no business being there, you know? So I feel like that one's pretty like pretty normal. Like these ones sound just like, because there are stories of people who just like disappear without a trace and you never know what happens to them, you know? So like that's very common sort of thing that happens when it comes to like hiking and especially like on the ocean as well. So those seem more, I don't want to say normal because it's not normal, but when you compare that to like the bear man, like what about the bear? Where's the bear man? But all right, we're gonna go on to the next one. Missing kids are the most heartbreaking. Doesn't matter what the circumstances they go under or they go missing under. It's never easy, and we always dread the ones we find deceased. It's not common, but it does happen. David Paulides talks a lot about kids search and rescue teams find hold on guys. It's not common, but it does happen. David Paulides talks a lot about kids search and rescue teams find in places they shouldn't be or couldn't be. I can honestly say that I've heard about this kind of thing happening more than I've seen it, but I'll share one of one of the ones that I think about a lot that I witnessed personally. A mother and her 3 kids were out for a picnic in an area of the park that has a small lake. One is 6, one is 5, and one is about 3. She's watching them all really closely, and according to her, she never lets them out of her sight at any time. She never saw anyone else in the area either, which is important. She packs their stuff up, and they start to head back into the parking area. Now, this lake is only about 2 miles into the woods, and it is very clearly established trail. It's almost impossible to get lost getting from the parking area to it, unless you deliberately are going off the path like an imbecile. Her kids are walking in front of her when she hears what sounds like someone coming up from the path behind her. She then turns around, and in the 4 or so seconds she's not looking, her 5-year-old son vanishes. Interesting. She figures he stepped off the trail to go pee or something, and she asks her other 2 where he went. They both tell her that a big man with a scary face came out of the woods next to them, took the kid's hand, and led them into the trees. Why didn't the other 2 kids say anything while this was happening? What the fuck? What? The 2 remaining kids don't seem upset, in fact. She says later that it seems like they've been drugged. They're sort of spacey and fuzzy, so of course she freaks out, starts looking frantically in the area for her kid. She's screaming his name, and she says at one point she thinks she heard him answer her. This kind of sounds like the Bear Man? Kind of? I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think this sounds like the Bear Man? This kind of sounds like the Bear Man to me. And they let it happen, right? Thank you for the story. So sad because I have to, because I love the new series. Thank you for stopping by though, Estella. Thank you, thank you. But, okay. Now, obviously she can't go blindly running into the woods. She's got the other 2 kids, so she calls the police and they send us out immediately. We respond, and when we start the search for him, over the course of this search, which spans miles, we never find a single trace of the kid. Canines can't pick up any scent. We don't find any clothing or broken bushes or literally anything that would signify a child being there. Of course, there's suspicion about the mother for a while, but it's pretty clear that she's completely destroyed about the whole thing. We look for this kid for weeks with a lot of volunteer help, but eventually the search peters out and we have to move on. That is so sad to hear. Okay. The volunteers keep searching through, or the volunteer... sorry, guys. The volunteers keep searching, though, and one day they get a call on the radio letting us know what a body, or that a body has been found and needs to be recovered. They tell us the location and none of us can believe it. We figure it has to be a different kid, but we go out there about 15 miles from the site where he vanished, and sure enough, we find the body of the kid we've been looking for. I've been trying to figure out how this kid got to where he did ever since we found him, and I've never come up with an answer. A volunteer just happened to be in the area because he figured he might as well look in a place no one else would think. Guys, I'm so sorry. It's so difficult trying to like keep it up to date, like trying to scroll down at the same time so that you guys can still read it. It's also very difficult because these are very long entries, so it's not like I can just read one entry at a time. A volunteer just happened to be in the area because he figured he might as well look in places no one else would think to, on the off chance the body had been dumped. He comes to the base of the tall, rocky slope, and halfway up, he sees something. He looks through his binoculars and sure enough, it's the body of a little boy stuffed in a little opening in the rock. He recognizes the color of the kid's shirt, so he knows right away that it's the missing boy. That's when he calls it in, and we're dispatched. It took us almost an hour to get his body down, and none of us could believe what we were seeing. Not only was the kid 15 miles from where he had started, there was also no way he could have gotten there up on his own. This slope is treacherous, and it's hard even for us with our climbing gear. A 5-year-old boy had no way of getting up there. Of that, I'm certain. Not only that, but the kid doesn't have a scratch on him. His shoes are gone, but his feet aren't damaged or dirty. So it wasn't as if an animal dragged him up there, and from what we can tell, he hasn't been dead that long. He'd been out there over a month by that point, and it looked like he had only been dead for at most a day or two. The whole thing was unbelievably strange, and was one of the most disconcerting calls I've ever been on. We found out later that the coroner determined that the kid had died from exposure. He'd frozen to death, probably late at night, 2 days before we found him. There were no suspects and no answers. Today, it is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Already, they say a lot that this is the weirdest thing they've ever seen. Like, I don't know. I'm still of the belief that there are many weird things that are happening. I don't know. Very strange. Sorry, guys. I am readjusting my seating position before we continue. So, okay. So this one was interesting. Very, very interesting. Oh my god, guys. I totally forgot we did not take notes. we 100% did not take notes. So let's actually do that now. Okay, I'm going to put up... I'm going to do notes now. Notes time? Yes, notes time. Okay, yeah. Okay, so from part 1, what do you guys think we should put? I know it's been a little bit since the first part, but I'm trying to think we should put. I mean, part 1 was pretty standard stuff, I want to say. So, part 1 we had obviously the stairs is like the main one, is like one of the biggest, one of like the biggest things that happened in the last part. But, I guess we should start off with our protagonist, our protag is a search and rescue officer. Okay, and strange counts of this time. Actually, guys, I have another idea. Maybe this, I kind of like this idea better. How about we just continue reading, right? I'm gonna do this. We're gonna keep continuing reading. What I'll do is I'll do this. And we'll do notes at the end. I think that feels a little bit better, especially for this one. I think that for other series that are a little bit more narrative driven, doing notes at the end maybe isn't the right approach for this. But this one, I think, since it's kind of just like individual entries, what I'll do is I'll like essentially just put this up for all of you guys to see, like a little bit more, and then I'll move it down. Yeah, I think that's kind of how we're gonna do it. I think I like this way a little bit better. It also makes it a little bit easier for me because it means I can read more off with you guys in the moment. So we're going to do it like that. Could it be an entity or this is happening around the world? This is, there are entities in the park, I believe. But this one for this missing kid, I guess, yeah, it was an entity because the kid said that someone like took his hand and led him off the path, and the mother said something about the kids being drugged or something, like they acted as if they were drugged, which is kind of strange. At first I thought it might have been the bear man that we heard from part 1, but at this point I don't think it's that. It sounds different than that, so I'm not quite sure what this one is. So these entries are very long though, guys, so yeah, let me see where this ends. Okay, so we're gonna go through this. Okay, let us continue on. One of my first jobs as a trainee was a search op for a 4-year-old kid that had gotten separated from his mom. This was one of those cases where we knew where we were going to find him because the dogs were on a strong scent trail and we saw clear signs that he was in the area. We ended up finding him in a berry patch about half a mile from where he had last been seen. Kid wasn't even aware that he had wandered that far. One of the vets brought him back, which I was glad for because I'm really not good with kids, and I find it hard to talk to them and keep them company. As my trainer and I headed back, she decides to take me on a detour to show me one of the hot spots where we tend to find missing people. It's a natural dip in the land near a popular trail, and people will usually move downhill because it is easier. We hike out there, it's a few miles away, and we get there in about an hour or so. I can never imagine hiking like over miles, you know, guys. Like, this sounds like one of the worst jobs ever for me. As we're walking around the area and she's pointing out places she's found people in the past, I see something in the distance. Now, this area is about 8 miles from the main parking area, though there's back roads you can take to get closer if you don't want to hike that far. But we're on state protected land, which means there can't be any kind of commercial or residential development out here. The most you'll ever see is a fire tower or a makeshift shelter that homeless people think they can get away with building. But I can see from here that whatever this thing is has straight edges, and if there's one thing that you learn quickly, it's that nature rarely makes straight lines. I pointed out, but she doesn't say anything. She just hangs back and lets me wander over to check it out. I get within about 20 feet of it, and all the hair on the back of my neck stands up. It's a staircase in the middle of the fucking woods. In the proper context, it would literally be the most benign thing ever. It's just a normal staircase with beige carpet and about 10 steps tall. But instead of being in a house where it obviously should be, it's out here in the middle of the woods. The sides are carpeted, obviously, and I can see that the wood it is made of. It's almost like a video game glitch where the house has failed to completely load, and the stairs are the only thing visible. I stand there and it's like my brain is just working overtime to try and make sense of what I'm seeing. My trainer comes and stands next to me, and she just stands there casually, looking at it as if it is the least interesting thing in the world. I ask her, what the fuck is this thing doing here? And she just chuckles. Get used to it, rookie. You're gonna see a lot of them. I start to move closer, but she grabs my arm, hard. I wouldn't do that, she says. Her voice is casual, but her grip is tight. And I just stand there looking at her. You're gonna see them all the time, but don't go near them. Okay, so yeah, we're getting more on the stairs now. Let's go. Okay. Don't touch them, don't go up them, just ignore them. I start to ask her about it, but something in the way something in the way that she's looking at me tells me that it's best if I don't. We end up moving on, and the subject doesn't come up again for the rest of my training. She was right though. I'd say about every 5th call I go on, I end up running across a set of stairs. Sometimes they're relatively close to the path, maybe within 2 or 3 miles. Sometimes they're 20 or 30 miles out, literally in the middle of nowhere. And I only find them during the broadest searches or training weekends. They're usually in good condition, but sometimes it looks like they've been out there for miles. What does that mean? I don't know what that expression is. All different kinds, all different sizes. The biggest I ever saw looked like they came out of a turn-of-the-century mansion and were at least 10 feet wide, with steps leading up at least 15 or 20 feet. I've tried talking about it with people, but they just give me the same response my trainer did. It's normal, don't worry about it, they're not a big deal, but don't go close to them or go up them. When trainees ask me about it now, I give them the same response. I don't really know what else to tell them. I'm really hoping someday I get a better answer, but it hasn't happened yet. All right, that is our next clue for the stairs. Very strange though. Like, the concept of them is very interesting, and it's kind of eerie that the search and rescue officers are saying don't go up it. Like, they're casual about it, but at the same time they're like, don't do it. The fact though that there are some so close off the trail is very, very disturbing, I think, because it's like the search and rescue officers know, don't fucking do it. Don't walk up them. They're bad news. Just don't deal, like, just ignore them. But if it's like your average hiker, right, and they see it, they're going to want to obviously go up it, you know? Like, I feel like they're not going to want to just leave it be, because obviously you're gonna go over, you're gonna take pictures with it, you're gonna take pictures sitting on it, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, look at this, right? So it's very interesting that they do pop up really close to the trail, but they also don't put any signs up to kind of deter people from interacting with them. Very strange, very interesting, but all right, on to the next entry. This is another one that was less spooky and more sad. A young man went missing late in winter when realistically no one should be going that far out onto the trails. We close a lot of them. Some of the wording in this is kind of strange, so I apologize if I stop to like reread it, because I still am trying to process what is happening while I'm reading it, but we close a lot of them. Okay, yeah, we close a lot of them, but some remain open year-round unless there's a shitload of snow. We didn't opt for him, but we had about 6 feet of snow on the ground. It was an unusually heavy snow year, and we knew it wasn't likely that we'd find him until spring when the thaw came. Sure enough, when the first big thaw came, a hiker reported a body a little ways off the main trail. We found him at the base of the tree in a pile of melted snow. I knew right away what had happened, and it scared the living shit out of me. Most of you who ski or snowboard or spend any amount of time on the mountain will probably have guessed too. I can already assume where this is going, and I don't like it. Oh man. Oh boy. Okay, so when snow falls, it doesn't collect as thick in the areas beneath the branches. It happens most with fir trees because they have a sort of closed umbrella shape. So what you end up with is a space around the base of a tree that's filled with a mixture of loose, powdery snow, air, and branches. They're called tree wells, and they're not immediately obvious if you don't know what you're looking for. We put up signs in the welcome center, big ones, letting people know how dangerous they are, but every year that we get an unusual amount of snow, at least one person doesn't read them or doesn't take the warning seriously, and we find out about it in spring. My best guess is that this young man was hiking and got tired, or maybe a cramp from walking in deep snow. He went to go sit at the base of the tree, not knowing that there was a tree well, and fell in. He got stuck with his feet up, and the surrounding snow caved in around him. Unable to free himself, he suffocated. It's called snow immersion suffocation, and it doesn't usually happen except in really deep snow. But if you get stuck in a weird position like this guy did, even 6 feet can be lethal. What scared me the most was imagining how he must have struggled, upside down in the freezing cold. He didn't die quickly. The snow must have formed a dense, heavy pile on top of him, and it would have literally been impossible to get out. As it got harder to breathe, he could have known, or he would have known what was happening. I can't imagine what he was thinking in his last moments. There is a video, this is a real thing too, guys. I saw a video of a I think they were snowboarding or something, and this is there's this, I don't know if you guys have seen it. There are a lot of views on it, so maybe you guys might have seen it, but it's very disturbing because there's a and this is an actual video too, guys. This isn't like some like fake or stage video or anything like that. But a dude was snowboarding, and he was just like, I think he had a GoPro on, and he was recording himself snowboarding. And he saw a person get like collapse into one of these snow pockets, and like the guy noticed him and immediately started like trying to shovel him out. Luckily, the guy, it seemed like he was fine and he was able to get him out. But yeah, like if that guy could have died if that other snowboarder didn't realize that the guy was trapped under the snow, which is really scary. Very, very scary to think about. Just like the idea of that is so freaky. Like this is something that like there is supernatural stuff going on in this creepypasta. But this is definitely along the lines of like realistic horror, of like something actually that can happen. So, all right, on to the next one though. A lot of my less outdoorsy friends want to know if I've ever seen the Goat Man. The goat. Okay, we got a goat. We have a bear man, now we have a goat man. The Goat Man, while I've been out on calls. Unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, I've never had anything quite like that happen. I guess the closest was that the whole black-eyed man thing, but I didn't see anything. However, there was one call where I had something kind of similar happen, but I'm not sure I'm willing to chalk it up to the Goat Man. We'd gotten a report that an older woman had fainted along one of the trails and needed assistance getting back down the main area. We hike up to where she's at, and her husband is just beside himself. He runs, well, I guess more jogs to us and tells us that he was a little ways off the trail looking at something when his wife starts screaming behind him. He runs back to her, and she's passed out on the trail. We get her back on a backboard, and as we're getting her down to the welcome center, she comes to and starts screaming again. I calm her down and ask her what happened. I can't remember verbatim what she said, but essentially what happened was this. She'd been waiting for her husband when she started hearing this really strange sound. She said it sounded sort of like a cat, but it was off somehow, and she couldn't quite figure out why. She went a little ahead to try and hear it better, and it sounded like it was coming closer. She said the closer it got, the more uneasy she was, until she finally figured out what was wrong. I do remember this next part because it was so weird that I don't think I could forget it if I tried. It wasn't a cat, it was a man, saying the word meow over and over. Just meow, meow, meow. But it wasn't a man. It couldn't have been, because I've never heard a man make his voice buzz like that. I thought my hearing aid was going out, but it wasn't. I adjusted it and it sounded all buzzy. It was awful. He was coming closer and I couldn't see him. And the closer he got, the more scared I was. The last thing I remember was a shape coming out of the trees. I guess that's when I fainted. Now, obviously, I'm a little perplexed as to why a guy would be out in the fucking woods chanting meow meow at people. So once we get down the mountain, I tell my superior that I'm going to go search the area to see if I can find anything. He gives me the go ahead and I grab a radio and I hike back to where she had fainted. I don't see anyone, so I keep going about a mile more. And when I head back, I go off the trail to see if I can figure out if I can figure out where she saw him coming from. It's almost sunset by this point, and I don't have any desire to be out at night alone. So I just sort of write it off and make a mental note to check it out tomorrow. But as I'm headed back, I start hearing something in the distance. I stop and call out for anyone in the immediate area to identify themselves. The sound didn't come closer or get louder, but it sounded exactly like a man saying meow, meow. In this really odd monotone, As comical as it makes it sound, it's almost like the guy on South Park with the electrolarynx? Sorry guys, I don't know how to say that. I'm going to bed. I'll be lurking to sleep. Good night, everyone. Thanks. Thank you, Baxter, for hanging out and chatting. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what that is, so I'm gonna skip over it. I go off trail in the direction I think it's coming from, but I never seem to get closer. It almost sounds like it's coming from all directions. Eventually, it just sort of fades out, and I end up going back to the Welcome Center. I didn't get any further reports like that, and even though I went back to that area, I never found the exact sound, or I never heard the exact sound again. I suppose it could have been some stupid kid out there fucking with people, but even I have to admit it was weird. Very, very interesting. Okay, so this wall of text. Okay, so this is also just author notes. Oh, Ned's voice box. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, I have no idea what that is. So, all right, we are on to the next one. Let's go. Okay, these look much shorter, and I like that already. Because, yeah, these last ones were really long. And I would have to take more breaks in between. This meant to help people whose throats were destroyed by smoke talking. Oh, okay, I see. Thank you for the clarification, though. Thank you. The first happened on a case that I went out on right after I got out of training. And I was still pretty new to everything. Before I took this job, I was a volunteer, so I had a basic idea of what to expect out on those calls. You were mostly dealing with finding lost people after the vets have found signs of them. Okay. Like I said, though, guys, we are going to try and get to the final part of the stairs before we end off the stream. So, as a search and rescue officer, you go out for all kinds of cases, from animal bites to heart attacks. This case got called in the early morning from a young couple who were up on the trails that goes by one of the trails that goes by the lake. The husband was completely hysterical, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. We could hear the woman screaming in the background, and he was begging us to come up there right away. When we get there, we see him holding his wife, and she's got something in her arm. Ew. She's screaming these awful, almost animal-like screams, and he's sobbing. He sees us and screams at us to help them, to please get an ambulance up there. Now, obviously, we can't just drive an ambulance up the walking path, so we ask him if his wife needs help, or if she can walk on her own. He's still hysterical, but he manages to tell us that it's not his wife that needs help. I go over while one of the vets try to calm him down, and I ask the wife what's going on. She's rocking, holding something and just shrieking over and over. I crouch down and see what she's holding. It's covering. I don't know if that's. I think it's supposed to be. It's covered with her blood. That's when I notice the sling on. That's when I notice the sling on her front, and my heart sinks. I ask her to tell me what's going on, and sort of pry her arms open, or gently open, so that I can see what she's holding. It's her baby. Ew, what is going on, guys? What the fuck? Ew. That's when I notice, or hold on. Yeah. I'm trying to find my position. It's so, whenever there's like a mountain of text like this, it's so easy to lose my position. It's her baby, obviously dead. His head is caved in on one side and he's covered in scratches. Now, I've seen dead bodies before, but something about this whole situation hits me hard. I have to take a second to compose myself, and I get up and go and get to one of the... And I get up and go get one of the other vets who is standing by. I tell him that it's a dead kid, and he sort of pats my shoulder and tells me he'll deal with it. It took us over an hour to get this woman to let us see her kid. Every time we try to take him from her, she flips out and tells us we can't have him, and that he'll be okay if we just leave her alone and let her help him. But eventually, one of the vets manages to calm her down, and she gives us the body. We took it back to the med area, but when the EMT showed up, they told us that there was never any hope of saving the kid. He died instantly from the trauma to his head. I was good buddies with one of the nurses who met them at the hospital, and she told me later what had happened. Turns out the couple had been walking with the baby in the sling, and they stopped because the kid was fussing. The dad takes the kid and is holding him, looking out over this little gully by the path. Guys, I don't like where this is going. This is going to get really graphic, I can already tell. The mom comes to stand next to him, but she ends up stepping on a loose patch of soil and she trips. She falls into the dad, who drops the kid, who ends up falling 20 feet down the little gully onto the rocks at the bottom. The dad climbed down and recovered the kid, but he'd fallen right onto his head and was dead by the time he got there. The baby was about 15 months old, and it was a total freak accident, a series of events that coalesced into the worst possible outcome, probably one of the most awful calls I've been on. Oh god. Fuck, dude. That is... It's hard even reading that, guys. Like... Yeah, that is really difficult to read. Good god. Fuck, man. Oh man, that is really nasty. Oof. Some of these, fuck. Okay, on to the next one though. I haven't seen a lot of animal bites in my time as a search and rescue officer, mostly because there aren't that many animals that come around the area. While there are bears in the area, they tend to stay pretty far away from people, and sightings are highly unusual. Most of the animals you'll see are the ones like coyotes, raccoons, or skunks. What we do see though are moose, or frequently though are moose. And let me tell you, moose are nasty fuckers. They'll chase after anything for any reason, and God help you if you get in between a female and its baby. One of the more amusing calls was of a guy who gotten chased down by an absolutely massive male moose and was stuck up a tree. Took us almost an hour to get him down. And when he was finally on solid ground again, he looks at me and says, "God damn, them fuckers is big up close." I guess that's not really a scary story, but we still laugh about that one. Okay, that's something a little bit lighthearted to kind of ease what we had just read, because the previous entry was very sad and disturbing. Something like that can happen in real life. Yes, yes. A lot of these are pretty normal though, so it's pretty interesting that we do get some supernatural ones here and there. But for the most part, we are just getting kind of like normal search and rescue stories, or these seem a lot more normal compared to some of the other ones we've heard from. So I honestly don't know how I'd forgotten this story, but it is by far the scariest thing that's happened to me. He says this a lot. I'm just gonna say that now. He says this a lot. I think he said that like one of the previous ones, but I guess maybe I've tried so long to forget about it that it just didn't come to my mind right away. As someone who spends literally all of their time in the woods, you don't ever want to let yourself get scared of being alone or out in the middle of nowhere. That's why when you have experiences like this, you tend to just forget about them and move on. This is, to date, the only thing that's ever made me seriously consider if this job is the right one for me. I don't really like talking about it much, but I'll do the best I can to remember it all. As I recall, this took place right at the end of spring. It was a typical lost child call. A 4-year-old girl had wandered away from her family's campsite and had been missing for about 2 hours. Her parents were completely despondent and told us what most parents do. My kid would never wander away. She's so good about staying close. She's never done anything like this before. We assure the parents that we'll do everything we can to find her, and we spread out in a standard search formation. I was partnered with one of my good buddies, and we were sort of casually holding conversation while we hiked. I know it sounds callous, but you do sort of become desensitized when you've been doing or when you've done this long enough. It becomes the norm, and I like to think to a certain extent you have to learn to desensitize yourself in order to work this job. We searched for a good 2 hours, going well beyond where we think she'd be, and we come out of a small valley when something makes us both stop in unison. We freeze and look up at each other, and there's almost a sensation like a plane depressurizing. My ears pop, and I have this odd sensation of having dropped about 10 feet. I start to ask my buddy if he felt that, but before I can, we heard the loudest sound I've ever heard in my life. It's almost like a freight train passing directly by us, but it's coming from every direction at once, including above and below us. He screams something to me, but I can't hear him over the deafening roar. Understandably freaked out, we all look around us trying to find the source of the sound, but neither of us sees anything. Of course, my first thought is a landslide, but we're not near any cliffs, and even if we were, it would have hit us by now. The sound goes on, and we're trying to yell at each other, but even standing close together, we can't hear anything but the sound. Then, as suddenly as it starts, it stops, like someone threw a switch and cut it off. We stand there for a second, perfectly still. Suddenly, as it starts... hold on, guys. Or perfectly still, and slowly the normal sounds of the woods come back. He asks me what the fuck happened, and I just kind of shrug, and we stand there looking at each other for a minute. I get on a radio and ask if anyone else just heard the end of the fucking world, but no one else hears it. Even though we're all within shouting distance of each other, my buddy and I just sort of shrug it off and keep going. About an hour later, we all check the radios, and no one's found the little girl. That is so weird. You just like shrug it. Their nonchalantness is very interesting. Bombastic side eyes? Bombastic side eyes for what? Most of the time we won't search. Sorry guys, my dog is sleeping and dreaming. Most of the time we won't search when it gets dark, but because we don't have any kind of lead on her, a few of us decide to keep going, including me and my buddy. We keep close together and we're calling out for her every couple of minutes. At this point, I'm hoping beyond hope that we find her, because while I may not like kids, the idea of them being out all alone in the dark is awful. The woods can be intimidating to kids in the daylight. At night, well, it's a whole different beast. But we're not seeing any signs of her or getting any responses, and around midnight we decide to turn around and head back to the rendezvous point. Imagine that though. Imagine hiking out in the middle of the night all the way to like midnight. That sounds absolutely awful. That sounds so terrifying. No job is worth that. We're about halfway back when my buddy stops and shines his light to the right of us into a really thick deadfall, or a group of dead trees. I ask him if he's heard a response, but he tells me to be quiet a second and listen. I do, and in the distance, I can hear him, or I can hear what sounds like a kid crying. We both call the girl's name and listen for any kind of response, but it's just this really faint crying. That is so creepy. Imagine like midnight, guys. This is fucking midnight, and you just hear like a kid crying and at a deadfall where they're just like a bunch of dead trees. That sounds so creepy. We head in the direction of this deadfall and go around it, calling her name over and over. As we get closer to the crying, I start getting this weird feeling in my gut, and I tell my buddy that something isn't right. He tells me he feels the same way, but we can't figure out what it is. We stop where we are and call the girl's name again, and at the same time we both figure it out. The crying is on loop. It's the same little hitching sobbing, then wail, then quiet hiccup, repeated over and over again. It's exactly the same every time, and without saying another word, we both take off running. It's real professional, first of all. Oh my god, you're just gonna be like, all right, peace out, guys. That's creepy. No thanks. Some search and rescue officer you guys are. What the fuck? It's the only time I've ever lost my composure like that, but something about it was so incredibly wrong, and neither of us wanted to stay out there anymore. When we got back to the rendezvous, we asked if anyone else had heard anything strange, but no one else knew what we were talking about. I know this sounds sort of anticlimactic, but that call fucked me up for a long time. As for the girl, we never found a trace of her. We keep an eye out for her and all the other people who we've never found, but frankly, I doubt we'll ever find anything. I mean, what if she was there and you guys just like they just left her to they just left her to the elements, and was like, that's not on us. All right. I'm going to take a look at some of these other ones first before we actually continue on, because there are a lot of them. Let me see. All right, yeah. Okay, I guess we'll keep going. Of the missing person calls I've gone out on, only a handful have ever resulted in a complete disappearance, meaning no trace of the person and nobody ever found. But sometimes finding a body just leads to more questions than answers. Here are some of the bodies we've found that have become infamous on our team. Interesting. A teenage boy whose remains were recovered almost a year after he vanished. We found the top of his skull, 2 finger bones, and his camera almost 40 miles from where he was last seen. The camera, sadly, was destroyed. The pelvis of an older man who had vanished a month earlier, that's all we found. Just the pelvis of someone? The lower jaw and right foot of a 2-year-old on the highest peak of a ridge in the southern part of the park. The body of a 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome, almost 20 miles from where she had vanished. She had died of exposure 3 weeks after going missing, and all of her clothes were intact except for her shoes and jacket. There were berries and cooked meat in her stomach. When they did the autopsy, the coroner said it appeared as if someone had been taking care of her. There were no suspects ever identified. That is strange as well. What the fuck? Very, very strange. Okay. The frozen body of a 1-year-old baby found a week after vanishing in the hollow trunk of a tree 10 miles from the area he was last seen. There was fresh milk found in his stomach, but his tongue was gone. A single vertebra and right kneecap of a 3-year-old girl found in the snowstorm almost 20 miles from the campground her family had been at the previous summer. Now, on to a couple of stories that my friend told me. I mentioned that you were all interested in the stairs, and you're in luck. He's had a closer encounter with them, though he doesn't have any explanation for them. He does have a bit more experience with them than I do. Okay. Interesting. Hold on. All right. So we're going to read this one for the stairs, and then I think we're just going to look for the other ones that involve the stairs, and then we will I think that's how we're going to do it. My buddy has been a search and rescue officer for about 7 years. He started when he was a junior in college, and he had a very similar experience when he first encountered the stairs. His trainer told him almost the same thing mine did, which was to never go near, touch, or ascend them. For the first year, he did just that, but apparently his curiosity got the better of him, and on one call, he broke away from the line and went to go check out a set of them. He said they were about 10 miles from the path where a teenage girl had vanished, and the dogs were following a scent. He was on his own, lagging behind the main group, when he saw a set of stairs off to his left. They looked like they were from a new house because the carpeting was pristine and white. He said that he got closer, he didn't feel any different or hear any weird noises. He was expecting something to happen, like bleeding from his ears or collapsing, but he got right up next to them and didn't feel anything. The only thing he said was that was odd was that there was absolutely no debris on the steps, no dirt, leaves, dust, anything. And there didn't appear to be any signs of animal or insect activity in the immediate area, which he found strange. It was less like things were avoiding them and more like they just happened to be in a relatively barren part of the forest. He touched the stairs and didn't feel anything except that sort of sticky feeling you get from new carpet. Making sure his radio was on, he slowly climbed the stairs. He said it was terrifying because the way they'd been stigmatized. He wasn't really sure what was going to happen to him. He joked that half of him was expected to be teleported to some other dimension, and the other half was watching for a UFO to come swooping down. He got to the top with little event, and he stood there looking around, but he said the longer he stood on the top step, the more he felt like he was doing something very, very wrong. He described it as the feeling you'd get if you were in part of a government building you have no business being in. as if someone was going to come up and arrest you or shoot you in the back of the head at any second. He tried to brush it off, but the feeling got stronger and stronger, and that's when he realized that he couldn't hear anything anymore. The sounds of the forest were gone, and he couldn't hear his own breathing. It was like some kind of weird, awful tinnitus. I don't know what that is or how to pronounce that word, but more oppressive. He climbed back up and rejoined the search and didn't mention what he had done, but he said the weirdest part came after. His trainer was waiting back at the welcome center after the search ended for the day, and he cornered my buddy before he could leave. He said his trainer had this look of intense anger, and he asked what was wrong. "You went up them, didn't you?" My buddy said it wasn't phrased as a question. He asked how his trainer knew. The trainer just shook his head because we didn't find her. The dogs lost her scent. My buddy asked what that had to do with anything. The trainer asked how long he'd been on the stairs, and my buddy said no more than a minute. The trainer gave him this really awful, almost dead-eyed look and told him that if he ever went up another set of stairs again, he'd be fired immediately. The trainer walked away, and I guess he's never answered any of the questions my buddy asked him about it since. Interesting. Very interesting. So that was our next entry for the stairs. The stairs seem to be, honestly, like, not that these other reports aren't interesting as well, but I definitely do think that the stairs aspect of it is easily one of the most interesting. I like kind of the supernatural ones, honestly, because a lot of the other ones where it just involves just kind of more realistic ones, it honestly just makes me kind of depressed whenever I read them. All right. Here's what I think we're going to do. I think we'll try and finish off the rest of this. And then we'll move on to part 4, but I think after part 4 we'll probably stop. We'll probably stop there for this stream. So let me get this one ready to go. My buddy has been involved in a lot of missing persons cases where there's never been a trace of them found. I mentioned David Paulides, and my buddy said he can confirm that those stories are, for the most part, accurate. He said that most of the time, if the person isn't found right away, they're either never found or they're found weeks, months, or years later in places they can't have possibly have gotten to. One story he told me really stood out that involved a 5-year-old boy with a severe mental disability. The little boy vanished from a picnic area in the late fall. In addition to the mental disability, he was also physically handicapped, and his parents explained over and over that he simply could not have vanished. It was impossible. Someone had to have taken him. My buddy said that he searched for this kid for weeks, going miles out of the accepted range, but it was like he'd never been there. The dogs couldn't pick up his scent anywhere, not even in the picnic area where he had apparently vanished from. Suspicion fell on the parents, but it was pretty clear that they were devastated and had done nothing sinister to their kid. The search was concluded about a month later, and my buddy said everyone had pretty much forgotten about it by later in the winter. He was out on a training op in the snow on one of the higher peaks when he came across something in the snow. He said he saw it from far away at first, and when he got closer, he realized it was a shirt, frozen and sticking partway out of the powder. He recognized it as belonging to the kid because it had a distinctive pattern. About 20 yards away, he found the kid's body laying partially buried in the snow. My buddy said there was no way that the kid had been dead for any more than a few days, even though he'd been missing for almost 3 months. The kid was curled around something, and when my buddy brushed off the snow to see what it was, he said he almost couldn't believe what he was seeing. It was a big chunk of ice that had been carved crudely to look sort of like a person. The kid was holding it so tight that it had frostbitten his chest and hands, which my buddy could tell even with the decay that had taken place. He radioed the rest of the crew and they took the body off the mountain. Now he recapped all of this for me, and to put it simply, there was no way this kid could have both survived for almost 3 months on his own or have gotten to this peak. There is no physical way this kid could have walked almost 50 miles and ended up on top of a goddamn mountain. To top it off, there was nothing in the kid's stomach or colon. Nothing, not even water. It was like my buddy said, the kid had been taken off the face of the earth, put in suspended animation, and dropped on this mountain months later, only to die of exposure. He's never really gotten over that one. Okay. The last story I'll share from him was the one that took place relatively recently, only a few months ago. They were out doing a recon for... Isn't this story like a real life case? I feel like a lot of these stories are more realistic, I think. Because a lot of, like, I want to say like maybe only 1 or 2 in every entry is supernatural, I guess. So, it is kind of interesting. I thought that mainly this creepypasta would be mainly just supernatural, but there are a lot of more realistic ones in this. Okay. Okay, so the last story I'll share from him is the one that took place relatively recently, only a few months ago. They're out doing a recon for mountain lions because there had been several reports of sightings in the last couple of days. One of our jobs is to scout the areas where these animals are seen to ensure that if they are in the area, we can warn people and close off those trails. Would be nice if they warned off, or they put warning signs up for the stairs, but you know, it is what it is. They'll do it for mountain lions though. He was out on his own in a very heavily forested part of the park toward dusk, when he heard what sounded like a screaming woman in the distance. Now, as most of you know, when a mountain lion screams, it sounds almost like a woman being brutally murdered. It is unsettling, but far from abnormal. My buddy radioed back to let Ops know that he had heard one, and that he was going to keep going to see if he could figure out where its territory started. He heard the mountain lion scream a couple more times, always from the same spot, and determined the approximate area of the mountain lion's territory. He was about to head back when he heard another scream, this time within only a few yards of him. Of course, he freaks out and starts heading back at a much faster pace, because the last thing he wants is to run into a goddamn mountain lion and get mauled to death. As he got back on the path and started heading back, the screaming followed him, and he broke into a jog. When he was about a mile from Ops, the screaming stopped. He then turned around to see if it was following him. It was almost night by this point, but he said in the distance, just before the path rounded a corner, he could see what looked like a male figure. He called out to them, warning them that the paths were closed and that he needed to come back to the welcome center. The figure just stood there, and my buddy started to walk over. When he was about 10 yards away, the figure took, as he described, a impossibly long step toward him and let out the same scream my buddy had been hearing. My buddy didn't even say anything. He just turned around and sprinted back to Ops, never looking behind him. By the time he got back, the screaming had moved back into the woods. He didn't mention it to anyone else, just said that there was a mountain lion in the area and that they would need to close the paths until the animal could be located and moved. That's not an animal, my guy. That is not an animal. Okay, so that was part 4. That one was good. That one was pretty good. This one was like kind of supernatural, but not really. Very, very interesting though. I do like this creepypasta. I like the kind of almost episodic nature of it. How all of it seems very different. Honestly, it's kind of hard to do notes for this creepypasta because there are just so many different entries and all of them are kind of just so different from each other. So the only one that seems to be reoccurring, I think what would be kind of cool is if some of them were reoccurring with some of like the entities that they see there. But yeah, I do like the way that this creepypasta is structured compared to the other ones we've checked out previously. So let me take a look at this one, and I'm looking for the stairs one to see if it's here. Yeah, okay, there's one more part for the stairs, so I think after this part we'll wrap up. We'll wrap up stream. So all right, let me take a sip of my drink before we get into it. But how are you guys feeling so far? How are you guys liking this one? It's actually a lot easier doing it like this because I can kind of keep my my positioning a little bit better for when I'm reading it off. So I do like this kind of structure for it. So let me take a sip of my drink and we will continue on with this last part. It would be more cool if the entities were more reoccurring. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of I like the episodicness, but I also kind of wish that it was the episodicness was like certain entities coming back, because it seems like the only thing that we've heard of more than once is the like, we've never heard of the Bear Man again. And I guess it is supposed to be told from the point of like a search and rescue officer who is just kind of experiencing these things and saying things, you know, or not saying things, like seeing things and like his experiences. And obviously, depending on how it goes, obviously you're not going to have the same experience twice, you know? So I do get it. I do get it. So. All right. Let's get it. Let's get it. Part 4. Katie is a vet who has been a search and rescue officer for about 15 years. She specializes in high elevation rescues and is widely considered one of the best in her field. She was one of the most enthusiastic storytellers, and since we were together a fair amount during exercises, she ended up telling me about 4 that really stuck with her. All right, let's see what KD's experiences are. The first she told me in response to my asking about her most traumatic calls, she took her head and told me that really bad calls happen more frequently on the mountain, since the potential for nasty accidents is higher. About 5 years ago, one of the parks she worked at had a string of disappearances. It was a bad year, she said, one of the worst on record as far as the weather went. They were getting out they were getting about a foot of new snow every couple of days, and there were a few avalanches that killed some climbers. They'd warn people about staying up on the mapped areas, but of course, there's always those who don't listen. In one particular nasty case, an entire family got wiped out because the father decided he knew better than the officials, and he took them out in an area that wasn't safe. They were snowshoeing, and as best KD could figure, they'd walked onto a shelf of snow that looked solid but actually wasn't. It gave way, and this family went ass over tea kettle almost 300 feet down a slope. They landed on the rocks at the bottom, and the parents died instantly. One of the kids did as well, but the other two survived. One had a broken leg and fractured ribs. The other was almost unharmed, save for some bruising and a sprained ankle. Damn, they got off easy. Holy shit. Bro, that's some serious luck right there. The uninjured child left his sibling behind and set out to find help. Katie said that the kid didn't make it more than half a mile before the storm overtook him. Oh, okay. Never mind, rip. Kid stopped to try and get warm, or maybe just to rest, and ended up freezing to death. They ended up finding the family. Yeah, the shocked emote. They ended up finding the family with some help of some witnesses who saw them heading out into the wilderness. And she saw she was the one to find the kid who had frozen to death looking for help. She said it had started to snow, just enough to obscure long distance vision, but not long enough to make searching impossible. She saw a figure sitting in the snow up ahead, and she got to it as quickly as possible. She described it in detail, how as she got closer, she realized first that it was a child, second that they were deceased, and third that they had frozen in one of the most pitiful positions she's ever found a corpse in. The kid was sitting upright with his knees tucked up against his chest, his arms were curled around them, and his head was tucked up into his coat. When she moved the coat to look at his face, she saw that he had died crying. His face was twisted, and tears were frozen on his cheeks. She said it was painfully obvious that the kid was terrified when he succumbed to hypothermia, and as a mother, it broke her heart. She told me repeatedly that she hopes the father is burning in hell as we speak. That's really depressing. It's really sad. Okay. The other traumatic story... hold on, let me actually move it down a little bit more for you guys. There we go. The other traumatic story she told me that stood out in my mind was one that happened when she was a rookie. Her team got a report of an experienced climber who hadn't come home the previous day. His wife was convinced that something bad had happened because he never failed to come home on time. They went looking for him and had to climb to what sounded like some very technically challenging parts of the mountain. They got to a relatively flat area, and Katie started seeing blood in the snow. She followed the trail, and as she went, she started seeing little bits of tissue. She wasn't sure exactly what part of the body it had come from, but the farther she followed it, the more there was. She follows this blood and tissue trail to a sheltered area under a cliff face, and she finds the climber. She said that there was so much blood, more than she'd ever seen before. He was lying face down, one arm stretched in front of him, as if he had died crawling. She looks closer and sees that he's partially disemboweled, which is where the tissue she had seen had come from. The guy has an ice pick tucked into his hip holster, and it is covered in blood. Of course, they'll never be sure what exactly happened, but she said as best she can figure, this is what went down. The guy had been attempting to climb up to the next area and had been using the ice axe to ascend. He probably hit a loose patch and had fallen on the way down, or possibly when he landed, he'd gotten impaled by the axe and it had disemboweled him. He had drug himself along, tearing pieces of himself out as he went, and he had died under the cliff face. She isn't terribly bothered by gore, but I guess a few of the guys who came to help her remove the body threw up when they turned him over, and a good portion of his intestines spilled out. Ew. Ew, ew, ew. That is so gross. What the fuck? My god. That is so nasty. Alright. I kind of wonder though if these what is it? Some of these ones, they actually do tie into the stairs, like the people disappearing, because that's kind of what we've been led to believe with some of the stair ones. So I kind of wonder if that has any connection or anything like that. So, all right. I mentioned to her that I was interested in hearing about any experiences she had with people completely disappearing. Her eyes light up and she leans in close to me. Want to hear a real doozy? She asks. She tells me about how, when she first started, there was a case that had gotten a lot of attention in the media. A family had been out berry picking in an area of the forest very close to the entrance of the park. They had 2 little boys, both under the age of 5, and at some point during the day, one of them vanishes. There's an absolutely massive search, and they find absolutely nothing. It's another one of those cases where it's like the kid was never there in the first place. The dogs just sit down and don't pick up... Sorry, guys. The dogs just sit down and don't pick up anything. No trace of the kid is found. The search goes on for about 2 months, but is eventually called off. Fast forward to 6 months later. The family comes back to place flowers at the memorial that's been set up for the kid. They bring their other son. While they're placing the flowers, they lose sight of the kid for about 3 seconds, and in that span, he vanishes into thin air. Now, obviously, the parents are beyond devastated. It's awful to lose one child, but to lose 2 is beyond imagining. The search is huge, one of the largest in state history. There are about 300 volunteers combing every inch of this park looking for the kid, but again, there's no trace of him. The search goes on for about a week, with people looking miles from the part of the park he vanished from, and then almost 2 weeks later, a volunteer almost 15 miles from the designated area, from the designated search area, radios in that he's found the kid. They assume that the kid was dead, but the volunteer says he's not only alive, he's in good shape. Katie and her team go out to recover the kid, and when they get there, she can't believe that this is the kid that's been missing. His clothes are clean, there's no dirt on him anywhere, and he doesn't appear traumatized. The volunteer says he found the kid sitting on a log playing with a little twig bundle that's bound together with some rope. Katie asks him where he's been, who he was with for those 2 weeks. The kid tells her that he's been with the fuzzy man. Okay, we're finally getting some reoccurring stuff now. Let's go. Now, Katie firmly believes in Bigfoot. So she gets all excited and asks what he means by fuzzy. Was he hairy? But the kid says no, he wasn't hairy. He was a fuzzy man. And he describes a man that's blurry, like when you see, or like when you close your eyes, but not all the way closed. He's the same man that came out of the trees and took the kid with him deep into the woods. The kid says he slept in a hollow tree and the fuzzy man gave him berries to eat. Katie asks if the man was mean. if he scared the kid, and the kid says no, he wasn't scary, but I didn't like how he didn't have eyes. Katie says, Katie says they get the kid back to headquarters, and a cop takes him into town to talk to him more about what happened. She's friends with the cop that talked to him, and she said that the kid described being kept in the tree by the fuzzy man, and given berries whenever he was hungry. He was allowed to wander around a very specific clearing, but when he tried to go further, the fuzzy man would get mad and yell real loud, though he didn't have a mouth. When the kid got scared at night, the fuzzy man made it go brighter and gave him the twig bundle. He said the fuzzy man was going to keep him, but he had to let him go because the kid wasn't the right kind. He either can't or won't elaborate more on that. The cops are sort of left just scratching their heads. And the search for his brother is renewed with no results. The kid has no idea where his brother might be, and they never found him. Interesting. So, okay, we keep hearing about this fuzzy man. I don't know if that's the same one as the bear man, but I remember in one of the previous entries we heard another thing about the fuzzy man. So, all right. But this kind of tracks with what we've been hearing about, like other kids who just kind of vanish without a trace as well. The last story that Katie told me was something that happened to her when she got separated from her training group when she was a rookie. They were learning the basics of high elevation belaying on a well-mapped side of the mountain, and she had to use the bathroom. She went off about 50 yards from the group during a meal break and did her business. I'll tell the rest exactly as she told it to me. So I go to take a piss, and once I'm done, I start going back to the group, but I've only gotten about 5 feet when I realize I have no idea where I am, and this wasn't I got turned around, lost. I literally had no fucking clue where I was. If you'd asked me, I don't even think I'd have been able to tell you what state we were in. It was sort of how I imagine people with amnesia feel, you know? You're completely lost and you have no idea what to do, so I stood there for a while just trying to figure out where the fuck I was and what I was supposed to do. But the longer I stand there, the more confused and turned around I get. So I started walking. As I recall, I just picked up a random direction and went for it. And as I'm walking, it's just getting worse and worse to the point where I have no concept of why I'm on the mountain in the first place. I'm just trudging through the snow, and then I start hearing this voice. It's kind of inside my head, almost like if a frog could talk. All low and croaky. And it's telling me over and over, it's okay. You just need to find something to eat. Find something to eat and you'll be okay. Just keep walking and find something to eat. Eat. So I start looking around for anything that I can eat. And I swear to God, I've never felt that hungry in my whole life. It was bottomless. And I think I'd have eaten just about anything you put in front of me right then. I had no concept of time, so I had no idea how long I'd been out there. Or I had no idea how long I'd been out when I hear an actual voice coming toward me. I go toward it and see one of the other search and rescue officers, and he looks fucking terrified. He's running toward me, asking if I'm okay and what the hell I'm doing out here. And the scary thing was, as he's running towards me, I kind of see myself reaching into my belt for my hunting knife. I'm not even really thinking about what I'm doing, but what I am thinking is that I have to eat. If I don't eat, I'll never be okay again. So I just have to eat. He sees me doing that, and he backs off right away. He yells at me to put my knife away, and that he's not going to hurt me. And that kind of snaps me back. All of a sudden, I know exactly where I am, and I put the knife away. I run to him and ask him how long I've been gone, thinking he'll tell me I've been gone for half an hour or so, but he tells me I've been gone for 2 fucking days. I've gone over 2 peaks and ended up almost on the other side of the mountain. And if I'd kept going, I would have ended up wandering into about 300 miles of wilderness. They'd have never found me. He can't believe I'm not dead, and of course, I don't know what the fuck to think. To me, no time has passed at all. I don't say anything. I just go back with him to a rendezvous point, and I'm taken back to HQ to be airlifted to the hospital. When I get there, they do all sorts of tests to try to figure out what happened. As best they can guess, I had some sort of weird fatigue state. I don't know if that's supposed to be fatigue, but which is kind of like amnesia or weird seizure that knocked my brain out of whack. But the truth is that we really don't know. It's never happened again, but I'll tell you, ever since then, I never go out there alone. People rag on me for making them come with me when I have to leave the group, but I just tell them that listening to me piss in the snow is better than losing me for 2 fucking days on a freezing mountain. Hear that? Hear that? Very interesting. Okay. Okay, so we have 2 more entries. 2 more entries. One is done by EW and one is done by PB. Okay, so EW. The next person I talked to was EW, a former trainer who now works as an EMT. He still comes to ops like this to help out, but doesn't work full-time for us anymore. He specialized in finding lost kids. He seemed to have a sixth sense when it came to knowing where they'd gone. He's a legend among the more senior vets, but he gets embarrassed if you compliment him on his work. He sat down with me at dinner one evening, and we ended up swapping stories. Most of them were just casual, but when we got to the subject of our weirder calls, I mentioned that I had a buddy who had gone up a set of stairs. He got kind of quiet and asked me what I've heard, or he got kind of quiet and asked me if I had heard of a little boy who disappeared from his park a few years back. I hadn't, so he told me this story. So we're on to EW now, and we're getting our next entry for the stairs. Let's go. This is a longer entry, so get ready. They were out looking for this 11-year-old boy, Joey, who had gone missing near a river. Of course, the first thought was that he had fallen in and drowned. But when they brought dogs out, they led the search and rescue officers away from the river and up into a very densely forested area. When we do searches for people, we search in a grid pattern, and we search every box of the grid incredibly thoroughly. What EW's team noticed right away was that there was a strange pattern emerging. Dogs in alternating boxes were picking up Joey's scent, but losing it when they overlapped with another box. If you think of a checkerboard, Joey's scent was being picked up in random squares, but never in red. Or wait, what? What? Joey's scent was being picked up in random black squares, but never in red. This, of course, didn't make any sense because how could the kid bounce from the area? Because how could the kid bounce from area to area without leaving a scent in each place he passed? EW and his partner pass into a new box of the grid, and EW notices a set of stairs leading about 50 yards away. He tells his partner that they need to go check near it, but his partner flat out refuses. He tells EW that he's made it a point never to go near any of the stairs he sees. And that while it may be routine, he's not to pretend that it's normal. He tells EW that he'll wait in sight while EW checks. EW says he was irritated, but he felt for the guy and didn't push him on the subject. I walk over to the stairs, and they were kind of small stairs into. They were small, kind of like stairs into a basement. I don't really feel strongly one way or the other about them. The stairs, I mean. I wasn't scared or anything. I guess I'm like everyone else. I just prefer not to think about them too much. Anyway, I went over and I could see that there was something lying at the bottom of this, at the bottom step, sort of curled up. My heart sinks because, of course, you always hope for the best, and we were confident that we'd find this kid alive because he'd only been missing for a few hours. But I knew right then it was him, and that he was dead. He was curled up in a little ball on the step. Hold on, guys. I'm actually gonna move this down a little bit. This is a really long entry. These smaller ones were so nice because I could actually like keep track of where we are a little bit easier so that you guys can see it on the screen. Okay. Okay, there we go. He was curled up in a little ball on the step holding his stomach. It looked like he had been in horrible pain when he died, but I didn't see any blood except some on his lips and chin. I radioed in that I'd found him and that his body and we got his body back to command. That poor family, they were devastated. The parents couldn't understand how he'd be dead because he had only been gone for such a short amount of time. And on top of that, we didn't have any obvious cause of death, which just made it worse. I figured he'd probably eaten something poisonous since he was holding his stomach when I found him, but I didn't want to guess. It's hard enough to hear that your kid is dead, let alone that some stupid search and rescue guy guessing about what happened. They took him away and I went home and tried not to think about it. I hate finding dead kids, man. I love this job, but it's one of the reasons I left. I've got 2 daughters, and the thought of losing them that way he choked up a little bit here. I'm not great with emotional stuff like that, and it's always sort of awkward to see a grown man cry, so I didn't really know what to do. He pulled himself together eventually, though, and he kept going. We don't always hear back from the coroners about the cause of death. It's not really our job to know, I guess. And sometimes if they think it's foul play, they won't tell us because of legal bullshit. But I've got a friend who works at the sheriff's department, and he'll usually pass along any interesting info if I ask. In this case, though, I actually got a call from him about a week later. He asked if I remember the kid, and of course I do. And he says something serious, or he says something seriously weird. Or he says some seriously weird shit is going on. He tells me, EW man, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but the coroner has no idea what happened to this kid. He's never seen anything like it. My friend goes on to tell me that when the coroner opened the kid up, he couldn't even believe what he was seeing. The kid's organs were like Swiss cheese. Quarter-sized holes were punched clean through just about every single organ the kid had, aside from his heart and lungs. But his colon, his stomach, his kidneys, and even, I'm not going to read that, were full of these clean holes. My friend said the coroner described it as if someone had taken a hole punch and punched holes out of everything. They were so neat, but the kid didn't have a scratch on him. No entry or exit wound. The closest anyone there had ever seen like it, sorry, the wording here is so strange, guys. I'm like losing my how to sometimes I feel like when I'm reading stuff for a very long time and I'm staring at text for too long, I feel like I can't read. I feel like my mind just blanks out. I'm like, what What am I reading? Actually, this is the perfect time though to kind of scroll down and refine my... Okay, the closest anyone there had ever seen like it. I feel like that's not me. I feel like the wording there could have been a little bit neater. Was a guy who had filled himself full of buckshot a year or so back. I think that's supposed to be the closest anyone has ever seen to anything like this was a guy who had filled himself full of buckshot a year or so back while cleaning his rifle. No one had a clue what could have possibly caused it. My friend asked me if I had ever heard anything like it, or if we'd had any similar cases in the past, but I'd never even heard of something like that. And I told him I wasn't going to be of any help to him. As far as I know, the coroner determined the cause of death as something like massive internal bleeding. But no one knows what really happened. I've never been able to forget that kid. I have nightmares about it sometimes. I don't let my kids go into the woods alone. And when we go together, I never let them out of my sight. How about you just never go to the woods, period, after working at a job like this? I used to love it out there, but that case and a couple of others just sort of ruined it for me. Dinner was over, so we started to clean up and go back to our cabins. Before we went our separate ways, he put his hand on my shoulder and looked at me really close. He tells me that there's bad things out there, things that don't care if we have families or lives, or that we can think and feel. He tells me to be careful, and he walks away. Yeah, okay, I'm not crazy. The wording here is just very strange. I think this is supposed to be, I didn't get a chance to talk with him again. That story stuck with me. Okay, so last little entry, guys. Last entry is by PB, which reads, by pure coincidence, I got to talk to another vet, PB, who's been in the search and rescue field for years. We were partnered on a grid sweep during a training exercise, and we were chatting casually about how we liked the job, what kinds of things we'd seen, and the like. At one point, we passed an old set of stairs, though these were probably from an old fire lookout, given the area they were in. I sort of casually mentioned that I was curious about the stairs and that I'd wish I knew more about them. He kind of got quiet and looked like he wanted to tell me something, but wasn't sure if he should. Finally, he told me to turn off my radio. Obviously, this is something we are never ever supposed to do, but I did it, and he did the same. Okay. I need my position. Okay, there we go. About 7 years ago, he tells me, he was out on a call with a rookie. They're in an area of the park that's had a lot of strange reports and events, disappearances, stories about lights in the forest, odd noises, things like that. The rookie was totally spooked, kept going on and on about things out in the woods, according to PB. The guy wouldn't stop talking about the goat man, just on and on. Goat man this, goat man that. Finally, I told him that there was plenty else to be afraid of out there that was very real, and that he had better get over this thing with the goat man. The rookie wanted to know what kinds of things I was talking about, and I just told him to shut up and walk. We crested a little ridge, and there was a staircase about 10 yards ahead. The rookie stops dead in his tracks and just stands there looking at them. I tell him, see? That's something you should be afraid of. The rookie asks me what the hell these are doing out here, and for some reason, I just open up and tell him the truth. or what I've been told is the truth. I could have gotten into a lot of trouble for doing what I did, and I could get into a lot of trouble for repeating it to you, but you're a nice kid, and I want you to stop looking into this. But while you're ahead, so I'll tell you what I know. Under the condition that you're to never breathe a word of this to the soups. I told him that I wouldn't say a word, and he double checks that our radios are off. Then, when I first started out, we were a little less tight-lipped about them and other things that happen out here. We warned people before they were even hired that there was weird shit going on. I guess the Forest Service was tired of having such a massive turnover rate, and they wanted people to know what they were getting into. So they started having people sign these agreements that they wouldn't go to the media about when about what they were going to see. Okay. I think FS is Forest Service? Maybe? The FS didn't want to scare people away, so the last thing they needed were spooked rookies running off to the media with stories of ghosts and haunted stairs. But eventually, they found that agreements weren't necessary. People not only didn't want to talk about what they saw, they wouldn't. A few times media tried to talk to people when kids or hikers would disappear, and no one would say a word. I can't really explain it, I guess. We just don't really want to admit anything is wrong. This is our job, to be out in the woods every day, every single day. We don't need to be spooked, and the best way to avoid that is to pretend like everything's okay. So I'll tell you everything I can think of, and after that, I'm done talking about it for good, and I expect you to not bring it up around me ever. The stairs have been out here as long as the parks have existed. We have records going back decades describing them. Sometimes people go up them and nothing happens. Other times, look, okay, I'm gonna scroll down so that we can get to the end. Okay, look, I don't really like talking about this, but sometimes really bad shit happens. I saw one guy get his hand sliced clean off when he got to the top step. He reached out to touch a tree branch, and it happened so fast. 1 second his hand was there, the other it was gone, completely clean cut. We didn't find his hand, and the guy almost died. Another time, a woman touched one of the stairs, and a blood vessel in her brain exploded, literally exploded like a water balloon. She sort of stumbled down and came over to me, and all she got out was, "I think there's something wrong with me." She dropped like a sack of flour, dead before she hit the ground. I'll never forget the way the blood leaked into the inside of her eye. Before she died, I watched it turn red. I watched it happen, and there wasn't a single thing I could do to help. We warn people not to go anywhere near them, but there's always at least one idiot who does. And even if nothing happens to them, something bad always happens. Kids go missing as we're on their trail. Sometimes someone dies the next day, cut in half in a completely safe part of the park. I don't know why, but something bad always happens. I don't know exactly why they're out there, but it doesn't matter. They're here, and if we're smart, we tell our new officers exactly what they're capable of. We were both quiet for a while. I was afraid to talk because I wasn't sure if he was done. He looked like he wanted to say something else. Finally, he spoke again. Have you ever noticed how you can't find the same ones twice? I nodded, expecting him to continue, but he just stayed quiet, walking alongside me, and eventually he started a story about the biggest deer he had ever seen in the park. I didn't bring up the subject again, and I didn't press him for any more stories. He dropped out of the op the next day. Apparently, he left before the sun came up. He said he was sick. None of us heard from him since. Damn. So I'm assuming he died. So All right, that was the end for part 4, and that concludes our area with the stairs, I think, for now. So, all right, that is it though. We will end it there. We will conclude the story there. There are many more parts. Who knows? We might pick it up again in another stream. We might do another revisit for this, but I think that's a good way to cap off. I'm a search and rescue officer. So, all right, we're gonna move back to the room. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Let's go. All right. That was fun. That was very, very fun. I did like skim through to make sure that there was nothing like crazy, but a lot of these were just kind of like first experiences for me reading these, and I really like this style of creepypasta. I don't know. It's just very interesting to me. It does resonate with me pretty well because, as you guys know, I have a huge fear of nature and anything of that sort. So when it comes to this sort of stuff, I'm always very kind of creeped out by it when it comes to weird stuff happening in the forest. But I also want to know if there were kind of inspirations for in other pieces of media that maybe came from this creepypasta, because like I said, when we were watching the ritual there, I could definitely see some similarities and stuff between what was going on, and I thought that was very, very cool. I thought that was very interesting. As well as Woodlands National Park. I don't know if Woodlands National Park was inspired by this creepypasta either. I would love to know if it was or not, but yeah, they do a very good job of making the of kind of, you should look into this you should look into the series of which series but yes, I absolutely love this one. Sorry for some of the scuff, guys, like I say, about a Russian forest service guy. Oh, okay. I will do that then. I will do that. I'm always taking new suggestions though for new creepypastas, so feel free to leave suggestions, guys. I'm always looking for more. But yes, I'm always looking in for more suggestions on creepypastas, because this is a weekly thing that we do here on the channel. We always cover creepypastas. But yes, I apologize for some of the scuff. Like I say, I try to keep it on screen so that you guys can follow along because I am a visual person as well. I like following along and reading too. But since I read at a different pace than what I can scroll at, I do have to kind of pause in between and make sure that you guys can actually see what is actually on the screen, and I'm not just like going off on a tangent reading. So I do try to keep that up for you guys because it helps me a lot too. So yeah, but if I was editing these and posting them online, it would be a lot easier because I could just kind of cut out all of the extra stuff there. But the actual creepypasta itself, let's talk about it a little bit. I loved it. Yeah, when it comes to forest stuff in general, I hate going camping. I hate the wilderness. I'm just so terrified of it. It is an existential fear that I have for sure. And the way they portray it is very interesting. Some of them are very realistic, though. I will say some of them are very realistic horror, and those ones kind of honestly just make me depressed for those ones, because that's stuff that really happens. But I do get that why they are including it. I love the supernatural ones though. The supernatural ones are so cool. Some of my favorite horror in general comes from like Blair Witch Project. Like I said, The Ritual. I love that movie as well. There are a lot of other horror movies that do take place in the forest as well. And all of those ones those ones do creep me out. So this is a one that I really wanted to check out with you guys as well. And I feel like if you guys have seen Ted's caving journals, I would love to see what is it? I would absolutely love to see a creepypasta adaptation for some of these. This would be so cool to see, maybe. At least at the same quality of Ted's caving journals. Because that creepypasta adaptation was so well done. I still want to watch it at some point on the channel with you guys. We might actually do a creepypasta 101 on that before we watch the actual creepypasta itself. Or if I do If we do decide to watch it on stream, I might actually read the creepypasta beforehand so that I can discuss it and kind of draw comparisons with you guys on for that. So, but yeah, this was super interesting, super well done. Yeah, and there's a lot more to it. And I know that there are other stories that have inspired this one. There's another one that I wanted to check out maybe next week. Or actually not next week, because next week we will not have a Creepypasta 101. We'll be doing the horror movie tier list. But maybe the week after that, I was thinking of checking out, what is it called? There's another one. It's called something's Goatman or something like that. And that's another Creepypasta. I don't know if that's tying in with this specifically, but I did hear the Goatman mentioned quite a few times. But we also got a few mentions of the Fuzzy Man. We also got the Bear Man in the beginning, but I don't know if later on the author decided to kind of retcon the Bear Man and change them into the Fuzzy Man. But we did get quite a few mentions of him as well, and he seems to have kind of a supernatural element to him as well, where he's able to kind of like, I guess, like teleport, and like I guess he abducts kids, and there was like that, like in that previous story that we read where he takes the brother, or he takes one of the kids of this family, and then later takes the brother, but later gives the brother back because he's not the right kid, which is very freaky, very, very strange. And I love that a lot of this is left ambiguous. I like it when we get an account from the search and rescue guy. I love it when we get an account from him, but we don't really touch too much after that on it. I love that style of storytelling, especially for these sort of accounts sort of thing. It makes it feel more believable that way, as it's like we never find out the answers to what these are, because quite honestly, I don't want an answer for a lot of these, and for a lot of creepypastas too, I don't want an answer. For some of the more recent creepypastas that I have been reading in my spare time, it seems like we kind of get answers. We kind of get a lot of explanation for stuff when a lot of these older ones, it's just very open-ended. Like, you'll never find out about it. It's just like a creepy encounter this person had, and it tells like an actual story, or it tells like an actual story that I would expect to happen. So, but yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on this. Very, very fun though. I've been loving doing these creepypasta readings with you guys. It's been so much fun. I hope you guys enjoy them as much as I do. I hope to be improving on my reading skills as compared to definitely the Menchie one, because that was the first time I did it. But I hope that I am improving on my reading skills and stuff, and my narrating skills. It's one of my goals to want to be to read things very smoothly with not many breaks in between and that sort of stuff. So but yes, that is gonna wrap up the stream though for this one, guys. Like I said in the beginning of the stream, we will be playing Amanda the Adventurer 2. Waiting room is already up for that, so check out the waiting room if you guys like, and give it a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And yes, and next week there will be no Creepypasta 101. It will be the week after, because we will be doing a Halloween special for a Halloween movie ranking, and there is a community post up for that as well. If you guys would like to go to the community and community post and recommend any horror movies that you would like to see on the tier list. I am also trying to watch ones that I haven't seen as well, so just so that I can actually put them on the tier list for you guys. So, but yes, that is going to wrap up this stream. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. I hope you guys have, all of you in chat, have a great rest of your day or night, wherever you guys are. And class is dismissed though, and I will see you guys all on Saturday for Amanda the Adventurer 2. I'll see you guys in the next one. Done.